All righty, sports fans, welcome on in. It is the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM. Proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network. Hey, I think you just heard me, but you're going to hear me for the next 3 hours. I'm Scott Mitchell, filling in, of course, for Sean. I feel Sean's spirit here. I don't know about you, but I feel his spirit. I know I'm here in person, and we continue this discussion about sports.
Are you feeling like a medium, Scott, where you feel like his spirit's channeling through you a little bit today?
I'm more of a medium rare guy. Yeah. Yeah. No, hey, we love Sean O'Connell. Always a pleasure and honor to fill in for Sean. Always fun to talk about sports. It's a Monday. It's you know what? I love Monday. I love Tuesday. I love every day of the week. Anytime we get a chance to talk about sports, that's a day I love. And I love what's going on today. We have an amazing show. We got so much going on. I just want to inform everyone, a little housekeeping here, just so you know. Today is legal tampering day, okay? Not your government tampering that we seem to get into, but it's a legal day for people in the NFL to go and conspire, to cajole, to motivate, to talk to persuade, to pursue, I don't know. I'm running out of adjectives, but you can actually go talk and legally do it, and nobody can say anything about it. It's almost the start of NFL free agency. That officially begins on at 4:00 on Wednesday. But right now, you can actually talk to people. It's legal tampering, so do with it what you may. Right? I don't know all of the ramifications. I guess we could just do this across the board. Everyone tamper all you want, and it's perfectly legal today. So I'm giving you charge to do that.
Yeah, it's not just legal tampering day in the NFL. Here in the Sean O'Connell Show, it's legal tampering across the board. Is that what we're going with here?
Yes, tamper away.
Should I call the other radio station? Hey, host, do you want to? Should we do that kind of tampering?
Well, what we should do is we should just unplug them, right? Because we can do that, and we control that. You know that. No, literally, we could pull the plug and say, "Hey, sorry, there's nothing you can do."
It's legal tampering day.
Who wants to listen anywhere else than right here now? Anyways, I don't know if it's
tons of ways to listen to.
If it's up to me, there are tons of ways because I'm going to get to that. If you want to stream us, it's live listen tab. The live listen tab on the ESPN 700sports.com, the ESPN 700 app. You can live stream us. You just hit on that little live tab. Your smart speaker. Just tell it, play ESPN 700 and at ESPN 700 Sports Utah on YouTube. So those are all the different ways you can listen to it live streaming. All right, you can go on the app. You can go on 700sports.com, your smart speaker, and, of course, the YouTube channel. So we're everywhere. Also, podcasting. If you want to go and podcast, you hit the podcast tab on ESPN 700sports.com. On-demand section of the ESPN 700 app and search for the Sean O'Connell Show. And, of course, you get your podcast wherever you get your podcasts, right? Our opening segment, of course, today is brought to you by Top Local Roofing. If you need a new roof or repairs, you need our friend Justin Cunningham at Top Local Roofing. They are certified by the Better Business Bureau and work all along the Wasatch Front. Top Local Roofing, 801-839-4501. And, of course, we're brought to you by Les Schwab. Our show today and every day is brought to you by Les Schwab Tires. Les Schwab has the tires, wheels, and accessories for whatever you drive. Stop by your local Les Schwab today, and their professionals will get the job right the first time, not the second time or the third. They get it done right. Hey, okay, I'm watching TV, and I'd already thought about this. They're pulling up the Brinks truck. And does anyone have any idea why they are pulling up the Brinks truck today?
It's legal tampering day.
They're
agreeing to deals. They're not signing them yet. That's not until Wednesday afternoon, like you said, but they're agreeing to the deals. Yeah.
What is going on in free agency? And I have a feeling that during the show today, we're probably going to hear more and more of these crazy, crazy deals that are happening. And you know, up until this point, there's all this speculation that, you know, Myles Garrett is so unhappy and he's demanding a trade, and he's just, you know, and he's throwing a fit and he's trying to act like every NBA player out there who's disgruntled and he wants to trade. And the owner says, I don't even want to talk to you. I don't have enough time for you. You're out. And then all of a sudden today it's like, no, I think I love Cleveland. I think I'm going to live here forever. I love the owner. I love everything about it because they made me literally the richest player ever outside of a quarterback in NFL history. So everyone kind of is doing these backroom deals now, right? Everyone. Well, we're all speculating Myles Garrett. We're speculating Aaron Rodgers. We're speculating. You go across the board. Russell Wilson, Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen was a bit of a surprise. Sam Darnold. Where are all these players going? Right? DJ Metcalf. He's like, I'm not happy. I want to know where I'm going to go. And so all this stuff is happening behind the doors. And then today, the cat's out of the bag, but not officially. Almost. We're almost there. And so there's some fascinating signings. And to me, quite frankly, the one that's the most interesting is Myles Garrett. And here's why it's interesting to me. There's always this balance that goes on, right? And you're trying to figure out as a team, where's our window, right? Where's our window of guys? And Myles Garrett has a lot of gas in the tank, right? And he's one of the top players in the NFL. If I'm out and I'm a team, I want Myles Garrett.
Yeah, your Lions was the team. Everyone was saying trade for him now. As soon as he made that trade request, trade for him now because they lost their great pass rusher middle of the year last year.
Yes, yeah. So on the open market, Myles Garrett would command whatever price, and it wouldn't be just the Lions. I mean, there's a lot of teams.
It'd be anyone.
There's a lot of teams.
Bring them up because they're the ones everyone was saying. Yeah, that's the team that would need him the most.
Now, what was interesting about Myles Garrett is Myles was saying it's not about the money for me. I want to go to a good team.
He said trade me to a contender.
And you have to feel like as a player who's been on a crappy team. And Cleveland's been a crappy team for decades. And you finally have to just say, I've had enough. I've had enough of this. I really want to go somewhere. It's not about the money, but it is about the money. I mean, the Brinks truck just pulled up and it literally he won the lottery. Publishers Clearinghouse just came by, whatever it is.
Check.
The Powerball just showed up, and he took the option of taking the lesser amount, and he got paid today. And I think the thing that's to me, so different than in the past is how much money these guys are getting for guaranteed money. I mean, you look at Josh Allen, and it's an extension, right? All of these contracts are extensions, and there's a reason for that, and the reason is kind of how our federal government works, right? So we'll just push it, we'll just kick it down the road, we'll just keep borrowing, and we'll just borrow, and because we're only paying enough interest on the debt, right? We're actually not paying the whole debt off, and so that's what guaranteed money is. That's what a signing, because they can prorate it over the life of the contract. So you go way out in the future, and you just have more years of prorating, so it's a less number on the contract. Now you can't do it with every player.
So Josh Allen's record-breaking 250 guaranteed. It's probably like 180 in the first couple of years.
Here's the saddest thing about Josh Allen's deal. You want to know what the saddest thing about it is? In a very short period of time, he will be underpaid again.
Yeah.
But he's locked in for a long time.
Yeah.
And so that's the decision the team makes with a guy like Josh Allen. They go,
and decision that Josh makes
right,
to
right.
accept it now and a longer extension.
And you have to go, because my strategy when I played was shorter contracts. You wanted to have that ability. Now, if I was faced with this kind of money, I'd you can extend me out for 30 years.
Yes.
Like you can just do 30 years. I'll go 40.
as much,
I'll go
and as much guarantee as I possibly can over that time.
You can pay me after I'm dead, right? That's where we're going with this.
You
like
pay your kids, pay my kids, pay my wife, when I'm
pay
dead.
my grandkids. I'll go forever on this one, and with that kind of money. I mean, it's just crazy money. It's just so silly. Every day that I see this, I'm like, this is crazy. And then every day it happens again. I'm like, it just gets crazier. I mean, it's $279 million per team, and he got $250 million guaranteed. So I like math in these situations, right? Because I look at it from a former player's perspective, and everyone goes, it's a $350 million, $330 million extension, right? And he already got paid before this. I mean, this isn't just the first time Josh Allen's gotten paid. So
yeah, what was it, 2 years ago that he got his first huge extension? Yeah.
And so he got part of that signing bonus, and then they extend. So it's just so they can have cap room.
Yeah,
they're just kicking the can down the street so they can collect the best team they have right now. And quite frankly, they want to do that because this is the prime of Josh Allen, right? So they, and they thought they were going to get Von Miller, and they thought they were going to get something out of Von Miller. So they take a chance on an older player because it's the window that they have with Josh Allen. Josh Allen's gotten better this year. He's clearly not at the peak of who he's going to be as a player. And so you want to not just have Josh Allen, you want to have people around Josh Allen. But to get back to the math problem, and this is how I'm just telling you, every NFL player does this, okay? You in the public go, oh, he got $330 million. And you go, no. All I'm interested in is the guaranteed money, which is $250 million, which is still, a lot.
It's not 330, but that's close enough to feel really good about it.
It's a record,
Scott?
Right? It's a record. Okay. So here's the math problem. I only deal with the guarantee because my base salary is nothing for the first probably 4 years of this contract.
Oh,
like because you have a really low base.
Okay.
So they give you the signing bonus, and his signing bonus, $250 million, is probably paid out. He probably gets 50 and 50 and 100, and it's not paid like all here.
Yeah, it's not a lump sum.
No. They don't have the budget for that.
Yeah.
They have a pretty healthy budget, but they don't have, they don't have in petty cash. Here, let me see if I can get you some change here in the petty cash for $250. They don't have that. Right?
Let me get you $250 million
no.
petty cash drawer.
What they do have is so the player goes, okay, cut that in half, right? So it's $125 million.
Okay.
That's my contract.
Interesting.
That's what I get, because you don't care what it all is, because if you automatically just chop in half what is yours.
So wait, what?
Well, I'll explain to you.
Because I've never been good at math.
There's a guy named Uncle Sam.
Right.
Right, and there's a guy named your agent.
Gotcha.
And there's a guy named state taxes, and there's a guy that's named we're going to tax athletes in every single city that they play in.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, and he lives in New York.
When you're taking that half out because of taxes and everyone else you have to pay.
Everything else you're going to pay. Okay, so what you get, okay, just so you know, when I saw this, I think I read it yesterday. I got my calculator out on my phone. That's
amazing.
But here's
still back from when you were a player doing it.
Well, because you want to figure out what you're actually going to end up with. Here is the craziest part about this. Okay, this is the craziest part, and this is why it's crazy money. Okay, this is
monopoly money.
It's crazy money. So he's only going home with $125 million after taxes.
That's it, Scott?
I know, right? Now, if you take $125 million, and if you put it in the bank at like 2.5%, you're going to be about $2.8 million a year in interest.
Wow.
If you, I mean, just put it in the bank.
Yeah.
Right. That's all you do. Now, if you can get like a taxable or a tax-free municipal bond, and that's going to give you about a 4.5%. You can get 4.5%. Look, because you don't want to risk this at all, right? So you want to find an investment that you get a return on somewhere around 5%.
You know, something like your buddy's car wash he wants to open up, right?
Car wash is not a bad thing. No,
I bring that up tongue in cheek because did you ever see the going broke 30 for 30?
A
long time ago.
Right.
A lot of those guys, Bernie Kosar, and others, they talked about how the car wash was the worst thing they ever invested in.
But car washes are actually not a bad deal if you're in the right place.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you the best investment, or it used to be, was Walgreens.
Oh.
Or CVS, a pharmacy.
Yeah.
So think about our society. So Walgreens is basically a government-sanctioned drug house, right? Where's the pharmacist? All the way in the back. So if you go into Walgreens, you got to walk through all the aisles of stuff you don't want.
Yeah, it's a big convenience store with a pharmacy in the back.
Right,
yeah.
and
even though pharmacy's in the name of the store.
Everybody is on drugs that are legal.
Yeah.
Like just the legal ones. So Walgreens is going to be in business. Always. And so Walgreens actually doesn't own the buildings they're in.
Oh, yeah.
Some investor bought the land, built a building.
They're leasing.
They're a tenant.
Yeah.
So they're a grade A tenant. And so someone comes along and says, would you like to buy Walgreens? So you're the investor. So you put in the money to buy the land, to develop it, to lease, build the building. So then you have usually Walgreens are in prime locations.
Yeah, they're on the corner of everywhere.
Yeah. So you have prime real estate. You have a cash flowing, appreciating asset. But it's a great investment.
That's a good point about how everyone needs medication.
Right.
At some point in your life, you need, whether it's over the counter or prescription. So the Walgreens or CVS pharmacies, yeah.
It's legalized drugs. Right.
By the way, Scott's giving you really good free endorsement here. If you want it, if you guys want to have Scott give you actual endorsement, give us a call.
Why not? So your mind every time, James.
Yeah.
Some big deal happens. So if you're
thinking of where you're going to put the money.
If you make 5% on your money,
yeah,
it's $6 million a year.
At 125
off the interest.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you this question. I want to ask all our listeners out there this question. Do you think you could live on $5.9 million a year?
I think I might be able to. Scott.
I think 5.9 million a year is about. I think it's about 500,000 a month. Is that right?
Yeah, I think I could, Scott.
Pretty cool. Can you manage a budget of $500,000 a month?
I would hope so.
See, I don't think anyone can. I really
think so?
No. I think athletes
spend it too much.
Yeah. See, because you're going to.
You think I'm made of money? I don't need to worry about whatever I'm spending it on. Yeah.
All I know is I know a lot of really wealthy NBA players who filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And they had hundreds of millions.
Scottie Pippen was in that broke 30 for 30.
Derek Coleman. Derek Coleman.
Yeah.
Basketball player. Showed up in a Rolls Royce and 2 fur coats.
That's right.
The bankruptcy. And I think it's because it was on your possession. So they can't.
So he gets to keep those.
Right. So he double plied the fur coats. Right. Smart.
100-degree weather. Probably.
I mean, that's a smart move right there.
Yeah.
You're going to bankruptcy. Throw on the fur coats, as many of them as you bought.
And they didn't even ask questions. They're like, yeah, July 2 fur coats. Yeah, that makes sense. Derek Coleman.
Okay, so that's how an athlete thinks when they get this money. If they're really smart, okay, if they're really smart, like you don't have to do anything is the point.
Yeah.
Like you literally, and you're not touching the principal ever. So that $125 million never goes away. It never goes because you're just living off the interest.
Because
Now there is tax on the interest.
Yeah.
but so you're probably around $2.5-3 million a year. That's what you.
That's what netting from.
That's what you have to live on.
6 in interest, probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. What the players forget, like, and we talk about these players, because I'm curious. I know in my era, a lot of guys went broke, and I know the era before mine, they played broke. None of them were.
Yeah, they didn't make the money in the first place.
They did not make. When they got to the playoffs and they got $18,000 to win the Super Bowl, like that was a big deal at the time.
Life-changing money for them.
Yeah, and most guys worked in the offseason. Pretty much everyone, I would say, probably until maybe my 7th or 8th year in the NFL.
Oh, really?
Almost every player talked about, what can I invest in? What can I do? What life do I have after football?
Oh, yeah.
And most of them would look at franchises. So, oh gosh, Jeff George. So Jeff George was the number 1 pick in my year, right? So 1990.
He's on your list of.
Yes,
I'm better than him list.
Right. Well, Jeff was pretty good.
No, Jeff had a good career. I mean, your list of who got picked before me.
We talk about these quarterbacks and like having like cocky, and kind of like is Shadur kind of a pain in, and that's kind of the perception of Jeff George.
Yeah. That
he was kind of, and I'm going to tell you, I thought he was one of the coolest guys in the world.
Really?
He's the nicest guy in the world. Just, in fact, yeah. When I was doing my podcast many moons ago, Helmets Off, we talked about how each one of us was envious of the other one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he's the first pick in the draft, and I was like, man, you were, and he goes, it sucked. Like, it was so, like, I didn't know anything. He goes, I would have given anything to have been coached by Don Shula and mentored by Dan Marino. He goes, I was so envious of you. And it was the funniest thing in the world because we both were we were like, the grass is greener over there. And, and oh, how I wished I would have had that conversation back when I was playing, but to go back to what players invest in, Jeff George owns a bunch of Dairy Queens.
Oh, really?
And so Dairy Queen is kind of a big deal in the Midwest.
Yeah. And
so he lives in Indiana. It's where he's from. So he's the Dairy Queen, like the king of Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Which I thought was funny. A lot of players get into franchises.
Whether it's fast food or something else.
Whatever it is.
That's awesome.
I tried to get into Great Harvest Bread.
Did you?
Yeah. I thought
that would have been
Great Harvest Bread was really going to be, that was the one that was really going to go. Have you heard of Einstein Brothers Bagels?
Yeah.
One of my former teammates invented that.
Oh, really?
Yes. John Offerdahl.
He's Einstein.
He started a bagel business in South Florida while he was playing. And they were phenomenal bagels. Was it always Einstein bagels? It was Offerdahl's. Offerdahl's, okay. Yeah, and so he partnered with another guy. They came up with the concept of Einstein's. They built it to 30 stores, and then they sold it to Boston Market. You've heard of Boston Market? Oh, yeah. The chicken place? That's a big deal. So Boston Market took Einstein Brothers and franchised it across the country. And now they paid John a nice little paycheck. Yeah. So what? So if you don't mind me asking, what was something that was there a franchise you invested in that? Yeah. So I invested in John's new concept. Oh. Which hasn't done quite as well as Offerdahl's or Einstein's. I'm still waiting for my ship to come in. Boston Market, hey. If you're ever in South Florida, okay, everyone here in Utah, when you go to South Florida, which is like, I don't know, not very often, but if you do, Offerdahl's Cafe and Grill. Oh. And it's phenomenal. So it's this whole idea of fast casual. So they make restaurant sit-down quality food, but they do it at a fast casual pace. Right, okay. Yeah. It's really good. I like those places. Yeah, it's like Panera Bread, only it's better because they make everything fresh. It's a lot fresher. Yeah. Phenomenal place.
That's
I wasn't expecting this
though.
conversation to go quite this way, but it is interesting.
It's fascinating to get into a former player's head about what you think about when you get that new deal. And I'm sure, like, you had one of the more famous free agent deals.
Well, I was at the beginning of free agency.
Yeah.
I mean, the first year it was $32 million was the salary cap per team. And I remember, I'll get a little personal here. I signed as a free agent with the Detroit Lions, and they paid me my signing bonus, the whole thing.
Oh, everything was in a lump sum?
They wrote me a check.
Wow.
And it was a $5 million signing bonus. And I'll never forget it. And they did it in Florida, so I didn't have to pay state income tax.
On the signing?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So the signing bonus part, yeah.
That was clever by you.
Now, of that $5 million, remember, we cut them in half, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know this at the time. I just was like, and all of a sudden, it was quite a while before Uncle Sam got paid. And so I got to hold on to the money for a while, but I eventually had to pay. And I wrote a check to the IRS off of my signing bonus. And I could not fit all of the words. You know how you write and then you write, you write millions and
you write
hundreds of thousands and 50,000s and I literally had to write it down the check, down the side, on the back of the check.
This border of writing.
I put a little note, please turn this over, to see the rest of the check. Yeah, it was kind of funny. But when I got the check, James, and I held it in my hand, I was like, I've never seen this many zeros in my entire life.
Yeah.
Like there's not a better feeling in the world than to see a lot of zeros, like commas and zeros, and it's a long time before you get to a dot.
Yeah.
When you get commas and zeros and it just goes and goes and goes and keep going, okay, there's the dot right there. And it was an amazing day. Like the check was blue. I'll never forget it.
Do you still
Detroit
have the check?
No. I could, who knows? I did cash it.
Yeah.
If you're interested. But I was, and then I got really nervous. So I went from just elation, like shock, like, wow, zero, like, I can't believe this.
Someone wants to pay me this much? This is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
To, we got to put this in the bank right now. And then you start to look around like, what if we lose this? We can't lose this. You see all those old movies, like It's a Wonderful Life and the uncle, loses the $7,000 and Mr. Potter steals it,
Or things just float away in the wind.
Yeah,
like a feather. Yeah.
It totally it felt like that. So I did an unbelievable feeling. And for me, seeing this today, like in my era, so all the people that came before me were like, hated me, right? That guy didn't deserve that, and he got all that money, and that's just not fair.
The way Shaq likes to talk about Rudy.
Yeah.
Gobert.
Exactly. and they're like, because we're petty, right?
Yeah.
Athletes are just petty. And they all think they deserve all the money. Right? It's because of me. That's why you get all this money. It's because of me. And it's like, no, it's just the timing of things.
Yeah.
And like today I look at these athletes and I just go, I'm just mad at my parents.
Yeah.
Like, why did you have to birth me so soon? Could you not have just held off a little bit, for like 30 years or something?
This could be me.
My parents and, gray hair and retired, have me at that age, please. Anyways.
It's so much money, Scott.
It's ridiculous. All right, let's take a break. Let's go chat with Josh Furlong when we come back. How about that? Hey, you're listening to the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM. Josh Furlong is going to join us next. Fun conversation we just had. We're going to have a lot more today, so stick around.
Lawson Lovering on the attack. Lovering shot up and missed it. Ezra with the stick back, dunks it down right on Kaba Keita's head.
Oh, Kaba, that's mine. Get out of there.
There you have it, folks. Ezra Ozer poster dunk on BYU's Kaba Keita. From Saturday's running Ute loss to the Cougars in Provo, courtesy Ute Sports Network. Of course, Bill Riley and Sean Mooney on the call. Hey, welcome back, sports fans. It's the Sean O'Connell show here on ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. I'm Scott Mitchell filling in for Sean. So happy to have you. Fun opening segment. I hope you appreciated and enjoyed that, James. But always fun when someone gets paid. Of course, it brings back fond memories of many, many years ago. So a lot of fun to talk about. Right now, though, we have none other than Josh Furlong from KSL.com. And the Utes beat writer is joining us right now. Josh, good morning. How are you?
Doing well, Scott. How are you?
Oh, living the dream. Only thing is it's a nightmare. So I don't know what that means. But no, we're having a good day. It's a good day. Interesting things, of course, happening with the Utes. Of course, Alex Jensen was hired as the head coach, and he returns. And the Utes are still in the Big 12 tournament right now. I want to talk a little bit about kind of Alex and kind of what this all means. But before I get to that, I'm curious, what does it mean right now? Like the team's going to play tomorrow in the Big 12 tournament. Looks like they might win the first game, probably lose the second one. How much interest, how much involvement is he going to have right now, or what goes on kind of in this really awkward lame duck moment?
Yeah, this is kind of an unusual period where, you get coaches fired before the end of the season, quite often. But it's rare that they generally get a head coach named before the teams even finish with their season. So there is definitely a weird situation here. My understanding is, he's had some communications with the team, but at the same time, he's really just letting Josh Eilert run this team, letting them do what exactly they need to do to finish out the season, and then he'll be more hands-on. And I mean, admittedly, he's also got his responsibilities with the Dallas Mavericks that he's not going to do away with until the season's over. So there's not a ton, but at the same time, it's kind of a weird situation, right? You've got a lot of these guys that are on the roster that have eligibility. Are they playing for Alex Jensen? Probably not, right? Like, I think if anything, they're playing to see if they want to get a spot on Utah's team next year. But I think there's a lot of questions going into this that I don't even know that you could answer to that extent of, okay, we can lock in these guys for Utah because the transfer portal opens up. I mean, it's technically open right now because they fired a head coach. But you've got a lot of uncertainty here. Are guys going to try harder to be able to get better deals? Those are the situations that I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see the conversations that Alex Jensen's had with these players and kind of get his view on what that is. But we haven't yet been able to hear from him yet. Obviously because of the situation where Utah's still playing, we haven't gotten an opportunity to talk to him formally in a press conference. So there's still a lot of unknowns, right? I mean, a lot of things that we can hear that are speculative, but for now, it's still just the same team that they've always had. Josh Eilert is running it. There's no interruptions from Alex Jensen. It's just kind of finishing out this season, and then immediately once the season ends, that'll turn over to the Jensen era.
I would think it would be a little bit advantageous, to be a coach to come into a situation where the team's still playing, because you could start doing some evaluation on some of the players and kind of get a better feel for things, as opposed to the season's completely over and all you're doing is watching film, and if you, I don't know how much of an advantage it is, but I think it would be kind of a nice thing. And kind of looking at the team, if you're Alex Jensen, what on that roster, what do you build with that roster? Do you just tear it completely apart? I mean, just scorch the earth, start fresh, or are there pieces to it? You go, we could really, these are pieces that we need to have here that we can really build with.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's still some pieces there, right? And I think the question remains, can they maintain that, right? In terms of, can they get the right NIL deals? someone like Ezra Asar is going to demand probably a good amount of money in the market out there. He's going to be a guy that's going to get a lot of suitors coming after him. But if he wants to stay at Utah and he doesn't want to move around and he feels like he has a good idea of what Alex Jensen wants, to me, he has to be, if not the top of the list, near the top of the list. He's a guy with an aggressive play style. He's been able to be great in the post. You're starting to see him becoming much more confident. Obviously the play calling and different things would change under Alex Jensen, but I have to imagine that, it's going to be somewhat similar in terms of how they play and being able to build on what he's got here at Utah and being able to be comfortable. So, a guy like him would be great. Somebody like a Keanu Dawes, young player, obviously he can show some upside, still has some things he needs to work on in his game. Somebody like him would be great. Jake Walling, I think you've seen a lot of progress from him year to year. Local kid, obviously want to be able to maintain that local tie. So those three right there would probably be the core that I'd want to build around if I were Utah. Beyond that, if you can get some other guys, Mike Sharp jumps. I know he's been inconsistent this season. The reason I would want to keep him is his length. If you can keep him as a guy that, is a bigger guard that can guard, 1 through 5, so to speak, is able to develop a little bit more, maybe get a little bit better of a game, a little bit better handles, then he becomes a great asset. He's got some great mechanics passing. The problem is it just hasn't always been showcased that way, and he turns over the ball more than not. So I think there's pieces here. I wouldn't be surprised if any/all of them enter their names into the transfer portal just to kind of test the waters. That's kind of the world we're in, just to allow them to kind of see. But I think Alex Jensen would be wise to at least keep a few of these guys to be able to keep some consistency, build off that. Because trying to build a whole 15-man roster from scratch, especially in your first year as a head coach in the collegiate ranks, that's not an easy task. So he's got to find a way to do it. They should have some money to be able to keep some of these guys. The question is, who are they going to prioritize?
I think Alex Jensen has a good deal in the NBA, right? I mean, he's well thought of. It's the NBA. I'm a coach in the NBA. That's quite an accomplishment. It's quite something to be able to make a statement with. What does it tell us as Utah fans that they were able to lure him out of that and to come back to Utah? Because he's not coming back here for nothing, right? And so what does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows, one, that Utah is trying to make a bigger investment into the running youth. We still don't have the contract, but I know that what has been talked about is it's expected to be much more than what Craig was getting. It's a much more valuable contract in terms of how it looks to his peers in the Big 12. And so I think from that vantage point, it helps. But I think you're also seeing in the college game that it's emulating the NBA model a little bit more. You're starting to get more of that same system. So you're getting a lot of these guys that have been in the NBA where they can now kind of have a similar model where you can hire a GM. You're not necessarily worried about recruiting the same way you used to. You still are, but the biggest knock for a lot of these guys is they don't want to go and recruit a ton, right? Like they like the cush life of the NBA. Not that that's easy by any means, but you don't have to worry about recruiting and trying to maintain that. You've got now a GM that can do some of that stuff. And so I think all in all, this kind of shows the investment that Utah's making, though, in the sense that they want to be able to give Alex whatever he wants in terms of being able to have kind of what he had in the NBA, whether that be pay, whether that be kind of his control of the team and how he wants to run it. I think there's a lot of opportunities here where he can kind of come in and already have a much better situation than what Craig Smith had. Craig Smith came into a situation where the fan base was pretty apathetic. The donors, they were still there, but it wasn't the same level. He wasn't the guy that everybody wanted. They wanted an alumni. And so now you've got a guy that has the donor base excited. He's got some support. He's got people that haven't necessarily supported the university in terms of monetary ways, kind of investing now. And so I think, it kind of shows that Utah's willing to go all in for Alex. And so I think that becomes an attractive situation. So the situation here, though, is, what kind of a leash does he have? Obviously, as an alumni, you're probably getting a little bit more, but Utah has to invest in it, whether that's through NIL, whether that's through, their athletic support in terms of staffing, different things that way. They have to do a lot to be able to do what they need to do to improve this program, or else, Alex is just going to be in a similar situation to Craig. He's going to be in a similar situation to Larry Krystkowiak. You've got to be able to find something and support them, or else it's just going to be another situation where you're looking for another coach in 3-4 years.
You talk about a little bit more of like the NBA model, and it's clearly a more professional approach, with the money the players are being paid and what have you. But the players are also interested in the coach and what he brings to it, and can this guy, you look at Kevin Young, and that was a big attractant to get the number one rated recruit, next year, was that the coach had NBA experience, and he had NBA experience developing Kevin Durant, right? So what kind of experience does Alex Jensen bring to the table? What type of player would be interested in how he could be developed by Alex Jensen?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think in this era, money talks. And so as much as I think that's a valuable stuff, I think it's just like, if you're going to pay me, I'm going to come, right? Like,
sure.
Does AJ Debinsa really care that much about BYU because of Kevin Young? Yeah, I think he does. But I think, getting paid whatever the reported number of $7.5 million, that helps. So I don't want to say that Alex is definitely not a factor, because I think there is truth to that, right? If you can get guys that can show that they've had, good rapport in the NBA, a guy like Alex Jensen was credited a ton with what he was able to do with the Jazz, especially that Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell team. He was able to help turn Rudy Gobert into a, several-time defensive player of the year. It shows that he's got that ability, right? And many people on the Jazz talked about him specifically. So this isn't just, oh yeah, he worked with the bigs, and no, this is a thing where they've literally pointed to him as a guy that helps. So I think if you can point to those situations and you can say, look, he's a guy that can develop you. He also understands from the NBA prospect of working with some of the best players in the league, guys that have won Defensive Players of the Year. He worked with Luka Doncic before, they blew up the franchise over there. He's got these players that he can work with and show that he can help develop them. If you can do that now at the college level, how much further along can you be if you do have that NBA aspirations? And what college player doesn't have NBA aspirations? So, I think that helps. I think guys that have this NBA experience, it can be a good model, especially the ones that are being viewed as great assets as assistants. So I think he can rest on that. But at the end of the day, like I said, money's going to talk, right? If Utah's not willing to invest money and invest into getting talented kids, it really – I don't know that it doesn't matter, but I think it's going to be much harder to have that sell if you don't get that money. So I think money mixed in with Alex Jensen's experience and all that, I think definitely helps. It goes much further along than what maybe some of these other coaches can bring. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is the NIL world, and that's going to talk a lot louder than most things.
Josh, I think that is a very honest answer. I really do. I mean, the words and the scuttle I hear on the street is every recruit now, their first question is, what are you going to give me? Like, what do I get? Right. And so I'm sure that money is the absolute driving force in so much of what happens. So there is, I hear out on the street as well, what's the likelihood of Andre Miller being part of the staff, and what does Alex Jensen's staff look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's good talk heading towards Andre Miller joining the staff. I know that there's been interest. Whether that actually gets to be a done deal or what capacity that he's in with Utah remains to be seen. But I mean, if you can bring two alumni in, two guys that obviously had worked really well together when they played together, I think that gives Utah great identity. Now, as far as his coaching staff goes, I'm really curious to see kind of where he goes to, right? Is this going to be all former Utah players, right? I know there's been talk about bringing some guys like Josh Grant into the program, obviously Andre Miller. There are going to be other guys like Hannah Matola. Like, are there going to be those guys where you're trying to recreate kind of Rick Majerus's team?
Right.
I don't know that Alex necessarily wants to go that route. I think obviously he wants to surround himself around guys that he's comfortable with, guys that understand who he is, and Andre, I would assume, is one of those guys. But I think he's also going to look at guys that are keeping players intact. So maybe if there's guys that have a great relationship currently on roster, whether that's Josh Eilert or maybe it's David Evans or maybe some of these other guys currently on roster, maybe that gives them the opportunity to be able to keep some of them, right?
Yeah.
I know both of those guys have been great assets for Utah. You can see some of the progression from Utah players this year. So, I mean, it shows that they've got the ability. Obviously, David Evans brings the local side. He's been able to be coaching in Utah for years, understands the incoming classes, the recruiting that way. He understands the college game really well. You also then get Josh Eilert as the interim head coach right now, who's had so many years of experience in the Big 12. And for a guy that is going to be coming into his first college experience in the last, 12, 13 years, especially coming into the Big 12, you need somebody that has experience in this league. So whether that's Josh Eilert or somebody else, I think you have to find somebody that understands this league at a high level. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was able to keep both of those guys on the current roster or the current coaching staff. And I think Andre would be a guy, like I said, Josh Grant is one of those guys that I've heard out there, whether that's, substantive or not, I don't know. But I think there's a lot of emphasis on trying to be able to provide excitement with former Utes, but also still provide some consistency with what Utah's already had.
Josh Grant's my guy, by the way. We were at the U together, and I love Josh Grant. He's just one of my favorite people in the world. In fact, no offense, Josh Furlong, but my oldest son, his name's Josh, and it's because of Josh Grant. I just
awesome.
I loved the name Joshua, and Josh Grant. I thought he was the coolest dude in the world. I had a man crush back when he was playing at the U. So because Josh is like he's raising money for the engineering program. Come on, he's a basketball guy. He needs to get out of that academic world, out of that. Come on, put him on the basketball court where he belongs. If you're out there, Josh, I'm pulling for you. All right, one last question. What happens this year? Is there any postseason aspirations for the Runnin' Utes?
Honestly, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, they can make a good run in this Big 12 tournament, which anything's possible with this team. I honestly think though this team is kind of just ready to see it be done, right? Like you've got guys like Gabe Madsen. He wants to continue and go as long as he can, and obviously that's what he wants to do. But I think as a collective, I think this team has just kind of been hampered down by the season. They're still fighting. Obviously, that BYU game, they were still fighting until the wind caught, didn't give them much anymore. But I think this is a team that even if there was, anything out there, I don't know that they'd accept. NIT, they would accept probably. But if they don't get into the NIT, which I think is a long shot at this point, there's no chance that they accept anything. I think they want to move on with the new era and kind of get going that way.
Josh, thanks for your name and thanks for your insight. Really appreciate it. Appreciate the honest answers. Sometimes we don't like to hear them, but we need to. So hope you have a great rest of your day, and thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate it.
All right, there you have it. Josh Furlong, KSL.com, Utes beat writer, giving us the lowdown on Alex Jensen. Good stuff there. It's all about money. When we come back, we're going to do a little hot lunch, talk about, is it okay? At what point do you sign an old guy in the NFL? It's a good question. By the way, ESPN 792.1 FM welcomes Counting Crows to the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater August 21st. Tune in to The Drive all week long for your chance to win tickets. Hey, we'll be back in just a second. We'll talk about old guys over hot lunch. Hey, sports fans, welcome back. It is the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM. I'm Scott Mitchell, subbing. They brought in the lefty. Sean is away, and I am here to play. By the way, it's Legal Tampering Day, just so you know. All day long, Legal Tampering Day. In fact, it's Legal Tampering Day until Wednesday. I'll be on tomorrow as well, so you know what? You can, tamper some more tomorrow. By the way, I'm also on the airways. Did you know that? Did you know that, James? The Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell.
I thought I heard something about that. Yeah.
We precede the Sean O'Connell Show, so I get the folks warmed up. I'm like that comic that hasn't quite made it yet. You know, I'm kind of funny, and and so hopefully I get the audience warmed up for the Sean O'Connell Show.
Yeah, you got 4 hours of Scott today.
Yes. Which is more
5
than
actually. One on the other station, on the fan.
Right, and I'm on the fan as well. Hey, think of how tough it is I have to be with me all day, every day. Like, it's a tough gig. It's not easy being me. Hot lunch, Von Miller was let go by the Buffalo Bills. It's kind of sad. And the question is there any gas left in the tank for Von Miller? Because he was an unbelievable player. I thought he'd really have a huge impact for the Bills. He was going to be someone that they could, he had enough to really get them over the hump and get them to a Super Bowl. Physically, just kind of maybe not quite there. Does someone pick him up? It's possible. He may be like a late addition guy to training camp if he even really wants to still play. But he was great in the day, and there's a lot of players out there like the Von Millers. I think the team throughout history that has done the very best job of picking up players like a Von Miller is the Patriots. You know, they found aging veterans who were savvy and still had something left. And, they churned out a couple of years and then they kind of mixed them in there with some of these younger guys. And I think they taught some of the younger guys in the Patriot program. And then, of course, you have Tom Brady in there and you have a nice chemistry. But there is a place for old guys in this league. And that gives me hope and happiness. We hate to see him leave. Players are playing so much longer these days. So, hey, we're going to jump out here to our friends at Farm and Chemist. We have Doug Burgoyne on the phone, and farmer and chemist here. Doug Burgoyne joins us. Doug, how you doing?
Scott, great to be with you.
Okay, so I'm looking at this, and you guys. So it says, if you're struggling with muscle soreness, arthritis, or restless nights, those are all of my problems and probably more. I feel like I'm the poster child. So you have CBD products that actually can help with this. So tell me how you can help me out, please.
Absolutely. I mean, you were talking about old guys a second ago, and I thought, man, he's talking about me. So I get it. Yeah, Farmer and Chemist CBD products are high quality, high potency CBD plus minor cannabinoids that really do just what you just said. They relieve pain and inflammation. So achy joints, sore muscles, whether you're a little older like us, or just a little, or a young guy that's a weekend warrior out doing hard things. The CBD with CBG is amazing, and that comes in gummy form. You can just chew a gummy or rub it on to local inflammation, joints, and pain and achy pain spots.
So you'll have someone come in and you can kind of customize things to what their problems and issues are. How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So our pharmacists and trained technicians that staff our store can help you identify the right product for you. Now, CBD doesn't work for everything. It's not going to heal torn meniscus or something, but if you have, like I said, achy joints or restless nights or can't get to sleep or can't stay asleep once you fall asleep, then the folks in our store can help you find the right product that will work best for you.
And these products safe? They're high quality? What's up with the products?
Oh, man, that's an awesome question, Scott. There are lots of questions around CBD because you see them advertised different places and you don't know if they're good or not. Farmer and Chemist CBD products are created from hemp, grown in western states where we know the folks that grow up the hemp, and we process it here in Salt Lake Valley using pharmaceutical grade products and quality controls. And then we put high potency in there, meaning we pack our CBD products full of CBD, CBG for inflammation, CBN for sleep and restless nights, and THC if you want it, or zero THC if you feel better about avoiding THC products.
There you have it, folks. And so great solution for all of these issues that you might be struggling with. It's not everything, but it certainly is helpful. And you can even help pets out. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got great tinctures, little oils that you can put onto pet food or dog chews that apparently are pretty tasty. They're very popular with the dogs. But for your pet that's aging or gets anxious, CBD is really amazing at helping them feel better and have more fun.
All right, there you have it. So you struggle with muscle soreness, arthritis, restless nights. You have issues with your pet. What do? They just call you on the phone. How do folks get a hold of you?
It's awesome. Yep, you can come into our store at 7719 South Main Street in Midvale, or you can see us online at farmerandchemist.com. And best thing is if you mention ESPN 700 in the store, or if you use the promo code ESPN 700 on our Farmer and Chemist website, then you get 20% off all products.
Awesome. There you go. Hey, really appreciate it, Doug. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, you too. All right, there you have it. Farmer and Chemist. Give them a check out. They're in Midvale. They're online at farmerandchemist.com. Check them out if you have these issues. We're going to take a break. Come back. We have Devin Jackson, who's an NFL draft analyst for the Philadelphia Inquirer. This is the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Hello, sports fans. Welcome back. It is the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network. I'm Scott Mitchell, filling in for Sean today and tomorrow. It's time for the lefty. So they brought me in, and happy to be here. It's Monday all day. I know it's shocking to some people, but it is. And I just wanted to let you know that it is legal tampering day, okay? So actually until Wednesday at 4 o'clock, we can all legally tamper. I don't know what that means. I think it's just open season, so knock yourself out. Live listen tabs on ESPN700.com is a way you can stream us. So go ESPN700sports.com, live stream us, or the ESPN 700 app. That's free on your preferred app store and your smart speaker. Just tell it, play ESPN 700. You can also check us out on YouTube at ESPN 700 Sports Utah. Podcasts, get them wherever you get your podcast. It's ESPN700sports.com or the ESPN 700 app. All right, there you go. Hey, joining us right now, I want to get right into this, is Devin Jackson, NFL draft analyst for the Philadelphia Inquirer. That's the city of brotherly love, and that's the home of your world champion Philadelphia Eagles. Devin Jackson, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Doing great, Scott. Thanks for having me on and talking some NFL draft with you. Obviously, it's a big day of NFL free agency, and you kind of alluded to it, the first day of legal tampering. So
yes,
a lot of NFL news going on there. But I think once this settles down, all eyes will be back on NFL draft next week.
It's interesting how much juggling back and forth between the draft and I know my last year I played for the Cincinnati Bengals, and Dick LeBeau was the coach, and Dick called me on the phone. So about this time of year, and he goes, "Hey, do you want to come back to Cincinnati? Because I really want you to come back here. But if you don't, we're going to go draft a quarterback." So I'm wondering how much effort or how much coordination is there between signing your free agents and not signing them, and how you're playing the draft? Because it's like, well, what if you don't get the guy you want, and then it just seems like it's kind of a challenging, I guess, juggling act for teams. How does that work?
Yeah, I think with NFL teams, obviously the work kind of starts the previous summer, and they're always kind of looking ahead. Kind of I would surmise is, what contracts are coming up, what guys are likely going to leave or maybe come back, and maybe who's going to hit the open market. But I also think that a lot of these deals depends on, what the prospective draft class is looking like. So, like earlier today, there's been a couple tackles that signed some big deals, but those guys, I wouldn't call them top 10 tackles, but they're guys that can be starters in the league, and they got big deals because the draft class and this upcoming class isn't that strong at tackle. So I think it kind of correlates as to whereas teams kind of plan for what positions, that they know aren't going to be as strong in the draft, and maybe guys that can't get starter level players early in the draft, some of those premium picks. So I think, you're seeing kind of like the defensive tackle class, for example, maybe they aren't flying off the board as quickly as we thought they would because there's a strong defensive class in the NFL draft. So I think it's kind of one of those balancing acts where teams have to do their homework and know what crop or what position players are going to be strong in the upcoming draft class. And that kind of leads them, I think, to making decisions in free agency. And then coming out of free agency, they can kind of reevaluate and kind of lock in and a few guys that maybe can be, obviously the contract control thing plays a part too with drafting rookies. But I think that kind of what the balancing act is.
So what's gone on so far in legal tampering? Is there anything you that's really surprised you? Like, wow, I didn't think that was going to happen.
I think just the amount that some of the tackles are signed for. I think the Dan Moore, signing there to the Titans, getting over $20 million a year. I wasn't really expecting that. Especially coming into free agency, I knew that he'll probably have a decent market, but I think those are some of the surprising moves. I know Milton Williams is still kind of deciding between the Panthers, and then I hear the Cardinals and Vikings are still involved. But the big name free agents, you expect it to go. But I would say some of those tackle deals have been a little bit surprising. Not necessarily the landing spots, because those teams need tackles, but at the price that they're going, I think this probably been the most surprising development of the day so far.
Going into the draft, obviously, I'm always interested in the quarterbacks. There was a fascinating thing happened a little while ago about Shedeur Sanders, and kind of that he may be arrogant. I don't know. What how much of that stuff goes on, kind of out of the combine leading into the draft, and can you really believe any of it, or is some of it actually valid?
I think you kind of take everything with a grain of salt during the draft process because there's so many different people meeting with these players that sometimes you just get a different vibe from team to team, and sometimes the impression that you thought you left is a little bit different. So I wouldn't be surprised if they really did feel that way. Maybe a few, maybe one or two organizations felt like he was maybe a little arrogant, but I think sometimes with the combine, with all the attention and whatnot, a lot of things being exchanged between teams. It's kind of a little bit of gamesmanship too. Like obviously teams know who they want and know the certain players that they're doing their homework on and really building a relationship with. And sometimes rumors get put out there to so they can fall to that spot or maybe teams don't view them as positively as before. So I think it kind of works both ways where, maybe there's some truth to the rumors, but maybe, teams are just putting it out there to kind of just cloud some of the, some of the other teams, valuation. But I think at the end of the day, like they say, it only takes one team to be comfortable with said player. And I'm sure a team is going to be real comfortable in taking Shedeur and, all this, kind of attention, kind of will be behind us, in a few months.
I tell you, I was so happy when I finally got drafted, and I forever am thankful for the Miami Dolphins for serious because when you talk about just having one team, you just need one, and I was just grateful that one of them liked me, and it was it's an interesting feeling and situation to be in. The quarterbacks, what's your evaluation of these top two guys, and is there anyone else in the quarterback position this year?
Yeah, so I think, obviously the top two guys, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, I think are just a little bit different in terms of the way they operate, the way that they win. I think Cam Ward is more of a, downfield explosive play type of player where he's not looking to run when he gets outside the pocket. He's looking to throw a ball down the field. So, I think to call him, like a true dual threat, I don't think that's necessarily what he is, but I think he's more of a guy that can, create plays outside of structure, be able to, operate an offense, up-tempo style offense that he did at Miami and a few other spots that he stopped at college, Incarnate Word and Washington State. I think with Shedeur, he's more of the, stand in the pocket, hold the ball. And I think both guys are kind of guilty of this, but they hold the ball quite a bit. One for Cam Ward for him to kind of run around and be able to make plays outside pocket. Shedeur, is more of trying to find guys and get guys to give them a chance to get open. So I think with those guys, they're kind of what NFL teams are looking for in terms of the modern type of quarterback. But I think with Cam Ward, he kind of fits more of like, what we saw like Caleb Williams coming out and kind of the dynamic plays downfield. I think with Shedeur, he's more of a drop back passer, a guy that, has some athleticism, but doesn't necessarily thrive, necessarily making plays outside of structure. So I think that's kind of the dynamic differences between the two in the way that they operate and the way that they bring a different skill set. And then after that, there's been a lot of discussion. I know Jackson Dart from Ole Miss is a guy his name has been thrown around a little bit as a potential first rounder, early second rounder. And then after that, I think, there's a few guys that maybe could be starters, but guys that are probably going to come in and be backups. And I'm looking at Will Howard from Ohio State, Kyle McCord from Syracuse as two guys that, probably or more type of backup type of quarterback. So I think with this quarterback class, there's a few potential starters, but I think mostly you're looking at guys that are most likely going to be depth players and then, potentially spot starters at the NFL level.
Yeah, Will Howard, back up for 10, 15 years, make $45 and $50 million and throw 10 touchdown passes in your career and call it good. That's not a bad deal. You mentioned something, and about quarterbacks. You're kind of listing a couple of them, and I just start thinking, I'm like, okay, so Cam Ward was in the Pac-12 at Washington State. Shador is at Colorado in the Pac-12. You have Jaden Daniels, who is in the Pac-12 at Arizona State. Bo Nix. You have Caleb Williams in the Pac-12. Bo Nix spent time in the Pac-12. Michael Penix in the Pac-12. And that conference isn't around anymore. What's wrong with us out here? It's like, come on, can't we keep our players in our conference together? Anyways, I digress. So I'm curious about Cleveland, right? So they re-signed Myles Garrett, and they're not really sure about Deshaun Watson. Are they going to draft a quarterback? Or are they going to try to go out in free agency and possibly get someone? What is signing Myles Garrett as opposed to trading him? What's that signify for the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, to me, it feels like they feel like they are committed to winning. So I would be surprised if they ended up drafting a quarterback at 2. I can see them drafting a quarterback at some point in the draft, but I think at this point they're probably looking for a guy that can start this year. A guy that can come in and play, at somewhat of a high level. But to me, it's kind of a short market. I think they want to be competitive this year is what I think that signals, but I don't think they're ready to try and make the next step because I don't think, whoever they do sign in free agency, I think it's going to be a short-term deal. And they might be waiting to 2026 and seeing, if there's a quarterback we're taking there. I think all indications with bringing back Myles Garrett and, still obviously still have Deshaun Watson on the roster. I know they've been, kind of converted his salary a little bit to lower his cap hit. But I don't think they're in position right now to necessarily draft a quarterback in this class. I think they're going to try and rebuild a little bit of the trenches and try to fill out a little bit the rest of their roster. So I wouldn't be surprised if, a guy like, maybe they bring Jameis Winston back. Maybe they bring in Joe Flacco for a year. I think that's one of the moves they might make this year in terms of getting a guy that can start this year and kind of bridge them to 2026 when they can maybe move off of Deshaun Watson's contract and, really try and do some things and figure out the quarterback for the long term because it's obviously Watson doesn't seem like he's going to be in their plans.
Yeah, that's been a tough one. Here locally at the University of Utah, I got a couple of guys with some draft interest. Junior Tafuna, can you tell me about Junior? Where is he?
Yeah, he's a guy that I think really, really helped himself when he went down to the Senior Bowl. I think he's a guy that's really talented player, a guy that I think is probably in the later rounds. I could see him like 5th, 6th round. But I think he's a guy that can be, a spot starter, rotational player at the NFL level and, really, really start to make a name for himself there. So I really like him. I like his game. I like what he showed at the Senior Bowl, and he did some really nice things there to me that show that he's definitely an NFL player, and a team will be interested in drafting him.
Karene Reed.
What was that?
Karene Reed. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, Karene Reed. Yeah. Really good linebacker. Really good instincts. A guy that, obviously a really good starter at Utah. A really good processor at the linebacker position. I think he's not going to be necessarily a guy that, blows you away with his testing and necessarily athleticism, but, a linebacker is kind of an instinctual position. And he makes a lot of plays, at the 2nd and 3rd level, can drop into coverage. So I like him on day 3 as well as a 4th, 5th round pick, especially in the linebacker class this year that, there's a few guys at the top, but, the depth is really going to be, I think where he finds a home. And we've seen some rookie linebackers make some really good plays and play early. So I think he has a chance to play early, and then at the NFL level with his instincts and ability to find the football at all times.
Brant Keithy, tight end, he got injured. What is a guy like Keithy who a lot of people really liked his skills, and tight ends are a big part of NFL offenses these days. Where do you see him?
Yeah, I think he's a guy that I think you can get creative with. I got a chance to talk with him at the Combine a few weeks ago, and he said as much that he'd be fine to play anywhere. But I can see a team really liking his skill set, finding a way to get the ball in his hands. Obviously health has been the big thing for him, and as long as he can show that he can be healthy going forward, I think a team will really like what he brings to the table. As a potential fullback, as a potential tight end 2 or 3 guy that you can use out in the flat as a guy to really kind of solidify your tight end room and bring kind of a different skill set. I know he did a little bit of everything at Utah, and just such a dynamic player when he is healthy. But I think I really like him as a player, and think he's going to find a nice role at the NFL level. Whether it's a kind of that split fullback tight end type of player, I can see that being kind of his path to becoming a guy maybe like a Kyle Juszczyk out of the 49ers.
Huh, interesting. Yeah, I think he's got some talent. I really do. Just stay healthy, because he was a very, very productive player at Utah. All right, last question before I let you go. I really appreciated this. It's been fun. I really like this. Who's the first pick in the draft?
Ooh, this is a tough one. Let's see. I think if Tennessee keeps the pick, I think it will be Abdul Carter from Penn State. But I could see the Giants getting aggressive and maybe trading up to 1 and getting Cam Ward. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee decides maybe this is time to draft a quarterback again and get Cam Ward. But I think, with them letting Harold Landry go and them really having a need at edge rusher, premium edge rusher, I think for Tennessee, Abdul Carter makes the most sense.
Well, it's always fun to watch. I really appreciate it. It's very insightful, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much, Scott. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and then looking forward to coming back on soon.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks. All right, there you have it, folks. Devin Jackson, he's an NFL draft analyst for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love, if you're so inclined. By the way, legal tampering day, just so you know, and it's Monday, all day today. I'm here filling in for Sean O'Connell. It's the Sean O'Connell Show. I'm Scott Mitchell here on ESPN 792.1 FM. When we come back, I'm going to tell you what it's like to make decisions as a quarterback.
with the winner for Alabama, and they get the revenge they wanted. Crimson Cranes in front of the Jungle.
What a difference a week makes. What a difference a week makes. They lose on a last-second shot to Tennessee. You know what? Justice was served to them in a way.
There you have it. Mark Sears' game-winning shot at the buzzer in number 7 Alabama's 93-91 road win over their rival, number 1 Auburn. And that was the regular season finale. Of course, it was courtesy of ESPN and Carl Ravitch and Dickie V on the call.
Did you catch any college basketball this weekend, Scott?
I watched a little bit of the North Carolina Duke.
Yeah, Duke Carolina. Yeah. That one didn't. It looked like it was going to be really good. Carolina went on that run, that end of first half, beginning of second half, and then Duke pulled away. But that right before that was the Auburn-Alabama game. Fantastic game that we just played the ending for.
I missed that one.
So. Yeah, the Iron Bowl on the court, right? Is that what we call that?
We've got your Alabama Crimson Tide against your Auburn Tigers. I'm Keith Jackson.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, not too bad. This is Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792.1 FM. I'm Scott Mitchell filling in for Sean. Having a fun day, man. I really enjoy this. Of course, it's legal tampering day. It's legal tampering couple of days until the actual signing begins in free agency on Wednesday at 4 p.m. That's Eastern time, I believe.
So it's 2 o'clock.
So 2 o'clock local.
So right at the end of the Sean O'Connell Show. So the drive with Spence Checketts will have all your official free agent signings.
The official. So
yeah.
Having the conversation with Devin Jackson, and of course talking all this draft stuff and what have you, these free agent signings. It kind of takes me back. We were having a conversation offline about this, and to when I started playing, I was drafted in the NFL, and I'll never ever in my entire life forget my first day. and it was a mini camp, and it was literally right after the draft, and they just throw you in. You don't know anything. And of course, I'm thrown into Dan Marino in his prime with Mark Duper and Mark Clayton, and going to practice and watching those guys practice, and I just said in my brain, I'll never ever be able to do that. Like there's no way. And over the weekend I got thinking about like what it's like when you're the process that your mind goes through to process games and make decisions, and like what's it like, when you're out there having to make a decision. And what I've realized, James, is it's a skill. And I don't know if it's certainly a skill I developed, but it's a skill that I find I do all the time. Like when I'm driving down the freeway, because you're in a live action situation, right? People are moving all around, and you're trying to maneuver down the freeway, and you're trying to make decisions about, do I stay in this lane? Do I move over to this lane? What if this person, and you're watching and kind of reading. It's like that guy's going a little slow, and there's a big old semi over here, and you got some moron in the left lane camped out going 65 miles an hour. And
are you seeing a sedan that looks like a safety to you when
you
drive?
So but my brain is constantly trying to process this information.
Especially when you have lots of things or people moving
and it's
around
all
like
moving
that. I like that analogy.
Yeah, and so it's a lot like chess, only it doesn't stop. Right, so it's like if you're playing chess and all the chess pieces were moving around, and you go, okay, I've got to make a decision, and I have to do it in like a split second, and then I hope I made the right decision. And I will just tell you, when you're first exposed to it, it just flies by your head. Like I remember not being able to complete the simplest pass, like a 5-yard hitch. Like it doesn't get any easier in your entire life. And then later on in my career, throwing a hitch is an afterthought, right? It's like, hey, if they're way off and you have a hitch over here, just take it, and it's like, okay, yeah, but like I couldn't do that on day one, and as you grow into and as you develop the skill of this, it's fascinating, just how quickly and how much information your mind processes, and being able to dump a bunch of information in your brain and not have you slow down physically. Like that's the key. Like if you hear the whole story analysis or paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
Because you can get so much information, and so it's learning how to kind of break it all down to make it super simple
and make it useful, right?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
in my experience, because it's the same kind of whenever you say there's a learning curve to a job or whatever, you feel the same kind of everything's moving too fast. The information, like this, I appreciate the information, but I don't know how to use any of it, kind of
Right.
thing. But you have to learn. It sounds like it's similar for an NFL quarterback. You have to learn the information that you can use right now and how you can use it, and then you gradually add the other information.
So are you a gamer at all?
Not really. I play a little bit of NBA 2K, but not.
And so it's kind of like that, to some degree, where you're kind of playing. In fact, they said with Jaden Daniels that his VR training. So you put some goggles on, and so you see the game in real life, and so you get a lot of reps without actually playing the game. You get in a simulator, and they say, and I've seen them, and they're amazing. But we didn't have simulators back in the day, and so you go through this process, and I don't even know if I can do it justice when you line up at the line of scrimmage. So you come to the line of scrimmage, and you generally are looking at the defense. Okay, and so if you have a running play on, you don't just go, we run the play. You have to look at the front, and the shading of the linemen. Right, the defensive linemen actually tell you initially this is a good play or a bad play, or you'll just call it at the line of scrimmage, and wherever the one of the defensive tackles is, this typically who you're looking at, and if he's in the right technique, then you run it to wherever that technique is, and it could be either the left or right side. But then you have to control: do you have enough people to block all the people that they potentially have? So even in running plays, you're having to analyze, because you would think, because passing plays is just it's crazy, but the running plays you still have to pay attention to it, and you have to kind of steer things in the right direction. And I think one of the most complicated things that you have to deal with in analyzing defenses is you have to analyze pass protection. Because you don't want to get killed, right? And if you screw it up, like you're going to get earholed, or if you don't read it right. And I see so many guys, and I don't think they do a good job of it today.
You don't think so?
No. In fact, I've heard. I mean, I know there's some coaches that, like, every place I was at, like, protection was everything.
Yeah.
Like you had to, The theory was, if we can't protect, we can't do anything. So we have to do that first.
Yeah, the play can be amazing, intuitive, whatever. It's a genius play, but if you can't protect, you can't get the ball out.
And so you went from you could block 8 guys down to you could block 5 guys.
Yeah.
And
okay.
so you basically, your pass protections were based on, so you had maximum protection. You had maybe a base protection. So max would be 8 guys. A base would be 7. You'd have a scat or scram protection that would be 6, and then you just have a fire protection that you just have 5 guys that you would block, and you have to understand all that. And so you're looking at but the defense doesn't tell you. And that's the whole thing. It's like they tell you after the snap of the ball.
You try to pick up on whatever clues before the snap.
And there are tendencies, and you do see things, but a lot of what you see is after the snap of the ball. And one of the hardest, and your brain gets so programmed to just see the look.
Yeah.
Like you'll drop back and all you'll see is grass. And when you see grass, you know it's man-to-man coverage.
Oh.
Because in man-to-man coverage, no one's dropping back. They're all coming to the line. They're either blitzing. So man coverage also means pressure. So you don't have all freaking day long to sit back there. And like So like Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl was a really good example of he was not seeing things well.
Yeah.
Like he panicked. I'm not going to say he choked, but he panicked. And what happened was he thought he was feeling pressure. And when you get man coverage, and you learn in your mind, and this is part of that processing information, you go up to the line of scrimmage and you feel man pressure and you drop back and you go, where's my man coverage route? And you have to be married to that guy typically. You can't go man coverage over here on the right and then decide I'm going to go back over. You got to be married to a guy and just trust that he's going to win, and kind of throw. A lot of times you have to throw a guy open.
Yeah.
And again, that's all that processing. So in your brain,
this is in how many seconds does this have to happen?
Less than
Scott?
2 seconds.
That's crazy.
So you go, okay, I'm protected. I'm going to this guy. I'm anticipating where he's throwing. But then the other side of it is there are people constantly moving around you.
Yeah.
So you don't just get to statically stand back there and just – because if you could, you'd kill everyone, right?
Yeah.
And defenses know that. So they try to make you move. And like Isaac Wilson last year, a freshman, anytime he moved, he just fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's just because he's young. I'm not criticizing Isaac here, but that's what would happen. And so anytime he had to move, and if he could have moved and made some more accurate throws, he would have had some really, really big – Oklahoma State game would have been a blowout.
Yeah.
And they kind of barely won that game. But it's all – so – but the only way to get this experience is to live it, right? So you, and to try to explain it, like to sit here and go, okay, you got man coverage, you got pressure, you got to get rid of the ball quick. It could be 2 safety high, and that changes things from a single safety in the middle of the field, and because it changes where routes where you can actually throw the ball, and it's a whole different deal. And what happens is you don't get to decide this until the snap of the ball. So you snap the ball, chaos ensues, and then you're like, okay, I've got the protection, I've got the coverage, the secondary coverage. Now I'm going to where my specific read is. And that's another thing. So coverages will send you to a certain part of the field.
Yeah.
And so they'll have 2 safeties deep, and then at the snap of the ball, all of a sudden one comes up, and now it's totally different. And so you can't come up to the line of scrimmage and go, okay, that's going to be cover 2, because if you do,
it could change.
It changes.
Right at the snap.
And you wonder sometimes, you go, why in the heck did that quarterback throw it there? Because he predetermined in his head, and he didn't see the rotation, he didn't see the adjustment, and then just to throw it on top. So I'm 6'6", okay,
yeah.
And we used to be under the center almost all the time, so we drop back. Now they're in the shotgun almost all the time. In fact, Dan Marino said, I could have played till I was like 50 if I played my whole entire career in the shotgun. And I watch old film of myself, and I'm like, I'm just getting tired watching me drop back all the time. It's just like, man, that was that was labor intensive. He's like, man, just sit back in the shotgun the whole time. And
you're like, I'm winded watching myself run back.
But for me, dropping back actually gave me time to assess everything that happened. But what happened? So I'm tall, right?
Yeah.
And the minute when you're under center, all the linemen are down. Offense and defensive line, they're in 3-point stances.
They're not standing up.
So you can see everything. Like I can look at a linebacker the distance that you and I are right now, and I can see him clear as day. We'd look right in each other's eyes, and that's how it was in games. And then the minute you snap the ball, 5 big giant dudes that are as tall as I was stood up, and then these other big dudes, and you can't see anything. Like you're just getting glimpses of a rotation, and it is the hardest thing in the world. And yet, I got to a point where it was like it was just easy. And you hear of guys like that have played a long time. It's like there's nothing that they can do that's going to surprise Tom Brady.
Yeah.
There's nothing. And a guy like Tom Brady, because he was not mobile, he had to do this 10 times better than anyone because he didn't have running to bail him out.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, bailing out is the only option.
And it feels like, Scott, that's one of the ways that the game and the quarterback position has changed since you played and the way it is today. Every quarterback has some kind of running ability to avoid something, it seems like.
And I think it's a cop-out.
You think that too much of a crutch for them?
Yeah, and I think it's because colleges teach this spread offense.
Yeah.
And so many of these players, and I think the NFL's just kind of gone and adopted it, and they've dummied down things a little bit, and so there's not as much, the precision of the West Coast offense, and the drops were all coordinated with the routes and the resets and the progression reads and how the quarterback moved. You don't see a lot of that today. You really don't.
It sounds a lot like what Tom Brady, I think he was talking about on a podcast before last season. You probably remember this. He said the same thing. He feels like offenses have been dumbed down for the quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are not near as, he didn't say they're not near as intelligent, but he said he doesn't think they're nearly as good as they were when he first came into the league because they're not having to think as much.
They aren't. No, and that. So when you think, like, I totally agree with that. When you have to think and you train your brain to think and process, that's a fun place to go.
Yeah. Because
then you just react. You're just so reactionary. You look at, I love to watch John Stockton play basketball because I love to watch him see a play develop, and then boom, he just make this awesome pass. But it was because he had developed his brain to make decisions on the fly, and so much of that is just out of today's game. Mark Trestman, who's a longtime NFL, he was an NFL head coach, and he's a senior analyst for the Chargers. He just said footwork is horrible these days with NFL quarterbacks. It's not anything like it used to be. And I just think so much of it is just, the rules are easier, and you don't have to rely so much on the complexity of life. And it's funny, you'll hear some guys say, "Oh, the game is so complex today," and I watch it and I go, "Okay, I'm not, this isn't wowing me in any degree." In fact, watching at least in college, I'm the color analyst for, I watch every single play. Like of every single game, and I'm like, this isn't different from when I played. Like they're not doing things schematically, defensively, or offensively. I think they're actually doing less offensively. It's all the bubble screens and all those screens. It's just like throw the ball here quick and see if we can make something happen, as opposed to let's deploy 3 or 4 people in a strategic way and make a quarterback actually read the defense and make the defense move and react, and then you kind of play off that, and that takes time and patience, and you just don't see it. And in college they don't have as much time to really do that. I was going to football camps when I was 10. And this is back in the 70s. I was being taught NFL philosophy, reading defenses, literally from the time I was 10 all the way through high school. We had a pro style offense when I was at Utah. I went to I really got an education on offense in my time in the NFL. And so, and I didn't feel like as an anomaly because I came back and coached high school football, and I was able to teach high school kids how to do this.
Yeah.
So you're capable. It's a fascinating process to have to assess these plays, and you do learn tricks along the way. And one of them was when guys were blitzing. I think I've said this before, is you look them right in the eye, because you need to know for protection. Like if that guy blitzes the middle linebacker or the Sam linebacker or the Will linebacker, one of whatever the protection is, if we have to throw hot, we have to adjust our route, we got to do something. And so I'd look them in the eye as I'm calling my cadence, and if they looked at me, I knew they weren't blitzing. But if they looked away, then they were blitzing, because you knew someone was up to something. Whenever someone's lying to you, they're not going to look at you.
Yeah, it's true. The eye contact.
And I'm telling you, and I never told anyone this while I was playing, it works. It's like it really works, and I could tell. It's like, okay, he's coming. or it's like, no, he's not, so I don't need to worry about him. But
that's fascinating. You mentioned John Stockton, and one of my questions for you as we prep for this segment, Scott, was I watched a lot of NBA yesterday, and one of the things that some of the analysts were talking about is Jokic and Luka, and they even said Jimmy Butler. They seem to play at such a slower pace. They're a lot more deliberate, and they were talking about how that helps them make the decisions because they're not trying to be fast. They're not trying to rush anything. I wonder if that's sort of any kind of comparison that you can make with NFL. Maybe not how fast you're moving like you would in NBA, a ball handler in the NBA, but it sounds like the slower your mind's moving, the better you can make the decision.
So
right?
no, it's absolutely all of it. It may appear like you're actually going slower, but because everything around you is fast, and so it's being able. I called it being able to be calm in the chaos. And I actually trained this, and you train yourself. When I was a basketball player in high school, I would I played in the inside because I was taller. And I'd have a shot right under the basket. And sometimes I'd miss it because I was anticipating contact.
Yeah.
And what I did is I tensed up in that moment as opposed to just relaxing, knowing you're gonna get contact and just absorbing it and being relaxed when you released your shot. And so when you have that tension and you're like, I gotta hurry, I'm in a hurry, and learning how to all this craziness going on and to teach your mind, to quiet your mind, then you played at a higher level. And I literally trained that. That's all I trained was how to, like, because you can't function as a quarterback and have that that anxiety. And it was hard for me because I would get so amped up for games. And I even did things like I would read books right before the game started that had nothing to do,
calm your mind,
nothing to do with football. And I couldn't read. I loved military history books, and reading about all the different wars and all that stuff. But if I read them,
it gets you all jacked up.
So game day, that stuff was off, right? No murder mysteries, no. So I'd read things like Barbara Streisand's autobiography, right?
Okay.
There was just, like, and I literally did, because it was like, okay, this. And I learned that her best side was her left side. So, in all of her movies,
you retained some things.
She had to be shot from the left side because she looked better, and she did. And I didn't know that, and so it just got my mind. So I just, because I just wasn't so consumed, and I didn't walk on the field like, I could rip the goalpost down, right? You just you can't be that way, or you just, and it's an awesome feeling to just be out in the middle of all this stuff and just like, we're just going for a stroll today. And it's, you get to a point in your career where you literally, you're at your best physically and mentally. And it's the coolest thing because you just feel like, I know exactly what to do. I know where to go. I know where to throw this, when to throw it. Nothing's phasing me. And you just really see the game. And it's just really, really a fun place to be. And it's just an incredible experience to learn how to just process all of this just quick information. And it's never the same because you're playing with human beings. So they don't move the same ever. So it's always new, it's always fresh, every play is unique in and of itself. And that was another thing when you talk about quieting your mind is you don't anticipate or predetermine. You just read and react to what really happens in the moment. And it's a really, really hard thing to learn how to do. And the really, really good ones figure it out, and they do it in any sport.
Yeah, I mean, as we were talking off air about this, and as you've been talking now, and I love that you brought up John Stockton, because I was actually, as we were talking about it, I remembered some of the NBA analysts talking about that's why Jokic and Luka, and they mentioned Jimmy Butler too, which was, you don't think about Jimmy Butler the same way you think about Luka and Jokic, but why these guys are so successful playmakers, not just for themselves but other people on the court. It sounds like it's similar way that why quarterbacks are good.
So, listening to Barry Bonds talk about how he read pictures and how he understood situations and how he knew, like, this is what this guy's going to throw me, and he got so good at it and so confident and so comfortable that it's just like he could hit anybody. And it's the same, it translates, into all sports. It's a live action thing. You've got to learn how to disseminate information and make a wise decision in a really short period of time. All right, let's take a break. This is the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 792.1 FM, Utah's number one sports talk. When we come back, I love this. This is my favorite part of being here. We're going to talk, what is it, Tank? Well, we got the tank race update.
NBA tank race update. I'll have it for you on the other side.
Was that coherent? Hey, welcome back. It is the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 792.1 FM. Scott Mitchell filling in. All that noise you're hearing and that chatter is what excites me most. It's what wakes me up. It's what makes me pray at night. That is the Utah Jazz to tank. So right now, NBA tank race update brought to you by James in the booth.
Yeah, a busy weekend in the tank race, Scott. This is the time of year we talk about January being the time when everyone starts really or Christmas being the time. Hey, now I'm going to start watching the NBA. This is the time of the year where you get the Saturday games on ABC, you get the Sunday doubleheader on ABC. It's a big time of year for the NBA, and so a ton of games took place this weekend in the tank race and without the tank and outside of the tank race. Jazz had a couple of games. They lost both of them. So good job, Jazz.
Go Jazz.
Woo! Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
They did their job in the tank race. They lost both of them. They lose to the Raptors on Friday. And then they did their best to come back to beat the Sixers last night. Did you watch any of that,
Scott? Make it look good? No, I didn't.
They were down.
See, I don't watch because if I watch, they're going to win.
Oh, that's true.
So I just don't watch.
It's the opposite of how you used to think.
Right,
when I don't watch, they lose. When I do watch, they win. So I see what you're doing there. It was 110 to 88. The Jazz, with like 6 minutes left, the Jazz end up cutting the lead to 2 with a couple seconds left. They get really close to it, getting a turnover and having a chance at a game-winning shot. I'm sitting there going, no, just get out of there with the loss. They did. 126, 122. Good job, Jazz. You did your job there in the tank. Hornets, they got so close to upsetting the Cavs. I said that, so Friday, I'm telling OC, okay, Hornets taking on the Cavs. They got no shot. The Cavs are way too good. Donovan Mitchell's been awesome. Cleveland's by far the best team in the NBA record-wise. Well, Cavs survive 118 to 117. I go, are you kidding me? We got so close to a win in the tank race. But the Hornets make up for it the next night, Saturday, by beating the Nets. This was a crazy game. They're down 102 to 93 with under 4 minutes left. ESPN's win probability. Have you looked at this with football or anything, Scott, where they tell you at this time whatever team has an 80% chance of winning it,
right,
or whatever it is. The Nets had a over 96% chance of winning, 96.7 or something, at 3:44 left, up 9. Hornets end the game from that point on a 12-0 run and get the win. Those dumb insects, the Charlotte Hornets.
What the heck?
They get the Jazz a win in the tank race. So that puts the Jazz ahead of the Hornets in the tank race. I'll update the standings for you here in a second. Same day, the Wizards also beat the Raptors. Another insane game, another insane ending. 118-117. So Jamal Shed, former Houston Cougar, he drives, for the Hornets, he drives to the right side, hits an incredible layup at the buzzer. It's in Toronto, so the whole building's going crazy. The video's awesome because it shows 2 Raptors fans making a video celebrating. Few minutes later, as they're reviewing it, they see that he literally had 1 or 2 fingertips on the ball as the time expired. No good. Wizards win. So that's how close it was for the Wizards to get what would be a tough loss in the tank race for the Jazz. They come out with the win instead. Gets the Jazz really close to the worst record in the league. Pelicans lost both times, did not help the Jazz out. And then the T-Wolves also lost 2 times. You're probably wondering why T-Wolves are good, right?
Yeah.
Jazz have their picks, Scott. So we're keeping an eye on the T-Wolves. We're calling it the secondary tank for the Jazz. They got a really close win over the Heat on Friday in Miami, and then they routed the Spurs.
See this whole NBA thing and this rebuild stuff isn't so bad. Like there's a lot to watch, a lot to pay attention to. I mean, it
can be kind of fun in its own way.
Yeah, I mean, this is March Madness NBA style, right? I mean, this is some crazy stuff. I think the game of the season is when the Wizards come to town and play the Jazz. I mean, this is must see TV.
Yeah,
and all we want
this week,
right? All we want is we just want competitive losses.
Absolutely, and
that should be the mantra: competitive losing.
They've been doing that for the most part this season, which has made this team kind of fun to watch, even though they're losing a lot. Interestingly, so
what's the over and under? The over and under that when the Jazz play the Wizards, that the whole starting five has load management issues. What's the over and under on that one?
I would say over or under half a starter.
Half a starter?
Half a regular starter for the Jazz. Because they sat like 4 of their starters in D.C. last week. Games tonight that factor in the tank race, Scott. Jazz are at the Celtics, 5:30 tonight on K-Jazz. Those are the defending champions, so that should be a loss for the Jazz. Help them in the tank. Hornets at the Heat. Winnable game for the Hornets because the Heat aren't doing so well after they traded Jimmy Butler. Wizards at Hornets, the rematch of that crazy ending I just described.
Yes.
In Toronto again. Maybe the Wizards can get a sweep of the Raptors a couple of days apart. Update the standings for you. It's never been this close, Scott, all season long. The Wizards now at 13-49 are just a game ahead of the Jazz. We say ahead in air quotes, or behind. Anyway, the Jazz are just a game behind them at 15-49. Hornets a half game behind the Jazz at 15-48, game and a half behind the Wizards. Pelicans 17-48. They're just 2.5 behind the Wizards in 4th place in the tank. So all 4 teams within 2.5 games, Scott. It's tight.
It's going to be a nail biter.
It's tight, and like you said, the big one, Jazz hosting the Wizards here soon. Where are the T-Wolves? They're tied for 6th with the Warriors now. Suns who are in 11th place. They're 6 games up on them. So I don't think we can count on the Wolves missing the playoffs outright. They're going to. The only thing you can hope for is that they have to be in the play-in and maybe miss it outright that way. So there's your tank race update.
All right, very good, very insightful, very full of information. Lots to watch for, lots to cheer for. Competitive losing, that's the name of the game. It's going to be March Madness, NBA style. Love it. Let's take a break. Come back. Deseret News Jazz beat writer Sarah Todd joins us, and she's going to make some sense of the Jazz situation moving forward. This is the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700, 92.1 FM.
Collier with under 12 to play will inbound. Let's see what Will drew up. Got to hurry. Over the top. Filipowski launches up a three. Got it. Collier over the top. One more time. Flip launches. Once again. Drops the triple.
There you have it. Back-to-back threes in the clutch time for Kyle Filipowski to keep the game close at the end of last night's 126-122 loss to the Sixers for the Utah Jazz, courtesy SEG Media, and that's none other than Craig Bolerjack on the call. This is the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM, proud to be part of Utah's ESPN radio network. I'm Scott Mitchell filling in for Sean O'Connell. It was time for the lefty. Bring in the lefty. So here I am. Hey, if you want to get a streaming, listen live tab on ESPN700sports.com. You can also go to the ESPN 700 app. It's free on your preferred app store. And then your smart speaker, all you got to do is say, play ESPN 700. We're also on YouTube, ESPN 700 Sports, Utah. And, of course, podcasting on ESPN700sports.com. And, of course, the ESPN 700 app. So we're everywhere. We're all over the place. Lots of amazing things actually happening in the world of sports. And it's legal tampering day today, and so here's the tampering that's been going on. It's been quite a day. Of course, let's see. You have Myles Garrett. He stays home. DK Metcalf goes to Pittsburgh. Sam Darnold goes to Seattle. That's right, folks. Signs a $100 million deal. Justin Fields goes to the Jets. Justin and the Jets. Yep, that's an interesting. There's so many freaking interesting deals going on here. You have Chris Godwin stays with Tampa Bay, and it's kind of fun. So in the studio here, there's actually a television monitor, and it's tuned into ESPN, and of course we have the NFL countdown, and the two analysts, right, are Adam Schefter and I don't know who the other guy is, and two guys are talking analytics, and Adam Schefter and this other guy they're just watching their phone.
Yeah,
their phones are literally just blowing up. So Josh Palmer agrees to a 3-year deal. Wide receiver, used to be with the Chargers, $36 million 3-year deal with the Bills. Here's the thing about free agency that's kind of interesting. Is everybody's happy today, right? Everyone's sitting there going, "Oh, this is so awesome!" I love that. Like DJ Metcalf, right? Man, if you're a Pittsburgh Steeler, you got to be over the freaking moon right now. I mean,
DK Metcalf guy?
Yeah. Oh, I'm a big wide receiver guy as it is, of course. But is he really going to be good? Because who's throwing the ball to So we're all excited about this right now. And sometimes these things today seem so amazing and so marvelous and so wonderful, and then all of a sudden they're not, right? Because they just kind of, I mean, like Aaron Rodgers was a perfect example of that, or just some of these other guys who you really thought were going to pan out or really going to be an addition, and then there are some guys that actually panned out well. Like I'm thinking of Chris Jones when he went to Kansas City, and so it goes both directions, but it always feels today like it's going to go the right direction. Like really, Sam Darnold to Seattle, who knows what that's going to be? Does he have the same offense, the same coach, the same environment? And he was going to Minnesota not as the starter. He'd kind of been this quarterback in waiting. He was like, he's kind of like that in San Francisco, played well, and now it's a different story. Now it's
got expectations
totally different, and it's a different vibe. There's a different, people talk to you differently and treat you differently, and the expectation is different. There was no expectation on Sam Darnold last year. Like, he could do no wrong.
The last time he had any expectations was when he was drafted out of USC to the Jets, and that obviously didn't go well.
And then the expectation was, okay, you got a chance to win the conference, home field advantage, and it doesn't work out. He doesn't play well, and then they go in the playoffs, and he has a chance. So the expectation now changes, and so he, was he really good in pressure situations? And so now the pressure is going to be different for him. But for some reason, I like the idea of Sam Darnold to the Seahawks. I don't know what it almost there's just people that just fit, like to me, Matthew Stafford with the Rams, for some reason it just feels right. Yeah. And what's crazy is Jared Goff with the Lions actually feels like Russell Wilson with Pittsburgh. No.
Yeah.
No,
right.
no.
I know what you mean. Like
it just doesn't work.
Jared Goff, even though he had some success with the Rams, him being number 1 overall to the Rams was like, I don't know, Jared Goff really? But then he gets to the Super Bowl in one of those years, ends up being a really good quarterback for the Rams, but still it just didn't feel right. But then they trade him for each other, and you're like, you know what? Jared Goff in Detroit, yeah. And Matthew Stafford, who I think did certainly feel right at times with Detroit. They just didn't have very good teams. Yeah. Felt even better with the Rams, and probably because you knew he had a much better team.
And I wonder if he playing inside, as a quarterback on grass, it's like that's what it's going to be like in heaven, right? It's going to be climate controlled grass, right? No elements, no wind. It's not going to be overly humid. It's not going to be overly sunny. You're not going to get snow, rain, really cold.
I don't have to worry about my grip on the ball, nothing.
No. Yeah. No, you don't have to deflate the footballs. That's what life is like to me. If you're a quarterback. Now, Justin Field to the Jets. Oh, we got a call. Do we take calls? Oh, why not? Let's do it. We have a call. And I'll take calls. Heck yeah. I love calls. But like Justin Fields, right? Okay, so Justin Fields is it's so hard because he's a really good athlete who's still trying to figure out how to be a really good quarterback. And you just wonder if he'll ever get there. And I think a guy like Jalen Hurts did. Like a lot of people have been speculative about how good Jalen Hurts is, but he was really bad, in my opinion, when he was at Alabama throwing the football. He could run the heck out of it. He was an amazing athlete, super competitive, really good human being, but he wasn't a really good quarterback. He wasn't even drafted to really be a good quarterback. He's drafted to be Taysom Hill. It was going to be the next Swiss Army knife, the do-it-all kind of player. And so, he figured out how to do it. Justin Fields, could he be the next Jalen? If he gets in the right situation, maybe. You got to be able to. We were talking about like dissecting information and doing it at uber light speed and doing it like on a consistent basis. It's just how you are. You just process information, and so many guys can't do it, and some guys learn it and develop it, and some guys don't. And back in my day, a guy like Steve Young was that guy, unbelievable athlete who was really learning how to be an elite quarterback, and he figured it out. I mean, he's in the Hall of Fame.
When was it? And it ended up having the caller hang up there, so unfortunately not going to get the caller. But
I was probably
go ahead and call back.
Maybe your bookie.
If you're still listening.
Maybe we answered their question.
Yeah, it might have.
Maybe it was a BYU fan that just got the wrong number.
One other question I had that I just remembered from when we were going back to that, what you're just alluding to, when we were talking about quarterbacks having to process information and make quick decisions. How many years into the league did you feel like I'm comfortable now making some of these decisions?
Okay,
was it when you got your first starting opportunity, or was it a little after that?
No. So this is a great question. Okay, so for me going in the NFL, I was a backup.
Yeah.
Right, to Dan Marino, but you're not a backup. Like if you pretend and think, well, I'm just a backup, you will never play. So in my mind,
be prepared, right?
In my mind, I was there to be the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins every day. That's how you
were going to beat Dan Marino.
That's how I had to.
Every day.
And people laughed at me, but it was like, no, and I'm not joking about.
I know
you.
That's the mindset you got to have, though, right?
Yeah, I don't care who. I don't care that this guy might be the best ever.
Yeah,
it's like, I asked this question to Billy Casper, great PGA Tour.
Yeah,
and he was my neighbor for quite a few years, and I actually went to high school with several of his kids. I love Billy Casper. Like he's one of my favorite people of all time. We used to play golf together.
Oh,
and the first time I played golf with him, I was like, so at what point did you realize that you belonged on the PGA Tour? And I was expecting, well, the first time you won, or your second year, third year, or, because I'm playing against Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer and all the, these freaking good golfers. And he goes, my first event.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I said. I said, come on, you can't do that. You're a rookie.
He had the confidence.
He goes, I won. I made a cut and I won. I won money. And he goes, and I never looked back.
That's amazing.
And he goes, my first year, I paid off my sponsor. I was, because there's an investment to being a professional golfer to make it, and so he goes, yeah, he said my first event, and I was just like, oh, I love that. So for me,
first practice, first OTA.
No, I was going through. It's kind of weird. So the first game I played in was a preseason game.
Uh-huh.
And I was put in at the very end of the game. So because I was a rookie, it was the very first. So they were taking their time with me.
This is back then. The starting quarterbacks played a little bit of every preseason game, right?
They played more as the preseason went on.
Yeah,
not less. Yeah,
right.
So
Nowadays,
Marino played.
Feels like they hardly play at all.
Yeah, Marino played. I think the first half.
Okay.
Of the game, and then they put in Scott Siegel's in like the third quarter, and then I got the fourth quarter. And so, I walk on the field, and I've never been in a game, and I'm playing against guys who aren't going to make it in the end of it. But I didn't know that. I thought this was the Chicago Bears. I thought it was Mike Singletary and Richard Dent. And I was playing against guys that probably went on to medical school or, and so I was 8 for 20.
Ooh,
it was bad. I was so rusty because I just hadn't. You don't get a whole lot of reps when you're kind of fighting to be the backup.
Yeah, because NFL, the starters are the only ones who get reps.
And in the beginning of training camp, they split the reps.
Oh, okay.
But it's like Marino gets 3, and then the other guys get 2 and 1 or 2 and 2, or so in a practice you might in a team situation you might get 5 reps, 6 reps. It's not a lot.
Not a lot. It's hard to get a rhythm with that.
I went into, and I remember lining up in the very first play, and I go, oh, this is just football. This is just like I played my whole life. Like this isn't something magical. It's not different. And that's when it clicked in my head. And I didn't play well, but I was like, oh, okay, I can do this.
Wow.
And it was the next week. And it was our second preseason game, and we spent the whole entire week practicing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I remember going in the game, and I went in at half. So I got to be the first guy to go in this game, and I just lit it up. And I just and I literally was, I don't know that I've ever been more fired up to play a game than that one. And I went to the dark place in some recesses of my mind, and I'll never
became a killer.
Yeah, I did. No, it's like I snapped, boom, in a good way.
Yeah.
And so it was literally in that moment where I go, all right.
So did you call Billy and be like, "Yes, I know what you're talking about"?
No. But then you don't really know until you play in a real game, because preseason and the regular season very different.
And might as well be two different leagues.
My
right?
preseason was against the backups.
Yeah.
I wasn't playing the first string guys, but it was the first game I played when Dan Marino got injured, and that to me was one of the best moments of my life, because I realized that I belonged in this league and that I was playing against the best people in the world. My first week in the NFL, I was named AFC Offensive Player of the Week the first game I started in the NFL, or not started, but played.
Yeah.
And then that first month, I was named AFC Player of the Month in the first month of my time playing in the NFL. But by the time I got playing, I had been so prepared and so ready, and I was ready. Like, I was ready to run through a freaking brick wall. Like, I had waited, 3 seasons before I ever even got a chance to play, and it was just like, I was so ready for it. In fact,
really
Marino
cool.
told me, he goes, "Hey, don't worry if you don't play very well in your first game." And he goes, "My first game," he says, "I threw 3 interceptions. I was terrible." He says, "Now we still won, but I was not very good. The first game I started, it was not very good." And I was like, I was not that way. I was like, I literally just hit the ground running. And people in the NFL were freaked out. They're like, "Who the heck is this guy?" Like, they, because it had been Dan Marino for so long, and then just somebody, and so it was like,
Did you?
Yeah.
So did the Dolphins? Did you lead them to the playoffs that year without Dan, or how'd you guys do?
So
it sounded like you did.
We were
pretty
9-2.
9-2. Okay.
We had just beaten the Dallas Cowboys, who had won the Super Bowl the year before.
Yeah.
It was the Thanksgiving Day Leon Lett game.
Oh, okay.
We had the best record in the NFL. So we're 9-2. And 3 of the last 5 games of the season are at home.
Yeah.
We don't win a game the rest of the year.
Oh. So the 9-2 when Dan went down. Is that what you're talking about?
No.
Oh, while you were the starter.
And
okay.
So we didn't win. We had 5 games left. We didn't win a game the rest of the year, and we were it was just injury after injury. Like, we had a really, really good football team. That when we were healthy, it was really good. Yeah. We had some great players. I mean, Keith Byers was on our Jackson was on our team. Terry Kirby, who was a great running back. There was Irving Fryer, Mark Ingram, Mark Ingram's dad. Ingram. I mean, O.J. McDuffie was a really good wide receiver. I mean, Tony we were really loaded offensively, as good as anyone in the NFL.
Sorry to bring up the bad memories.
It's not a bad
No,
memory.
I'm just
like
kidding. This stuff happens.
No, it's just it's I've been in a situation where we had the best record in the NFL, 9-2. And we don't win a game the rest of the year. And it wasn't for lack of trying. Yeah. Like, it was just tough.
Yeah.
It's tough to finish it out. And then I've been on the flip side of that, where we started the season 0-3, and there were 2 teams in the NFL history that started to that time started 0-3 and made the playoffs, which we did in 1995 with Detroit. So it's all about how you finish.
Yeah.
You got to finish strong. Otherwise you're going to be toast.
They still, I mean, a lot more teams now since that time till now have made the playoffs at 0-3 starts, but they still talk about that today as, hey, you really don't make the playoffs at 0-3.
No, it's with the added game, it changes the
certainly.
A little bit, and then they look like they're going to add another one, so it's a different deal, and that's why there's nothing worse in sports than being on a team in the end of October, knowing you're not going to make the playoffs, and you have 2 more months there's nothing worse in sports than that. That's why the NBA is so hard for me, because winning is such a premium in the NFL, and the NBA, it's like I don't know how, you lose almost, you lose 30% of your games, or you lose 30 games a year, or you're still real,
still a good team.
52 wins in a season is amazing, and it's just, and for the Jazz right now, like, you'd have to put me in a room with, rubber round walls, and just padded, and just and I would literally curl up in the corner and suck on my thumb. I just I couldn't handle having to go through that, and I don't know how they do it. I mean, I guess you just get your paycheck, and that's a good thing, but it's I'm just too competitive. It's really hard.
It's interesting talking to some of the Jazz writers, and unfortunately, it looks like Sarah was not able to join us. Speaking of one of the Jazz writers, but Sarah being one of them that have said in their conversations with Jazz players, and I've been in the locker rooms and post game too, and heard some of these. It's interesting to hear them say all these players want to win every game, right? Tanking that we joked about in the last segment, rooting for the tank. It's what's best for the team now. They all understand that, but they still all want to win every game. So it's interesting to hear them say that competitiveness has not changed with me, but I know it's a business, and I know that the team has decided this is the best route, is to not win that many games. But Colin Sexton still goes out there and tries to win every game. Still goes out there and tries to be better than LeBron James every night.
I think the ownership and the coaches have to manage that.
Yes.
Because it's like you can't put your good players out on the floor because they're going to try hard because that's all they know how to do, and they're playing for maybe their next team or their next opportunity or whatever. And so,
that's why you see we joked about how many starters against the Wizards, over or under half a starter, right? Regular starter. Yeah. That's why you see, okay, you're just not going to play tonight because I know you're going to try too hard to win, and we're probably going to win this game if you play. Like that's why you have to play those games. And yet, what's been fun about this team, Scott, and we'll go to a break a little bit after this, but it's been fun to see the players still play really hard. Will Hardy still coach really hard. That they've been competitive in almost every one of their games. They've had a relatively few number of blowouts for a team that's 34 games under 500, and it's what's made them so entertaining and still fun to watch it for those that have cared to watch their games, while still being a chance to be the worst team in the NBA.
Look, don't do anything stupid. Don't play a player who's going to go out and win a game for you. Just don't do it. Competitive losing is the name of the game for the Jazz. We're going to take a break. This is the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 792.1 FM. We come back. It's all about what happens up front. Hello, sports fans. Welcome back. It is the Sean O'Connell Show, ESPN 792.1 FM. I'm Scott Mitchell filling in for Sean today, and they said they needed a lefty. So I'm in to pitch to the lefties, and I'm going to throw them the heater. Anyways, welcome to the show. Been a fun show today. Really had a good time. Love doing this. I absolutely love doing it. Crazy day. It's the legal tampering day. So you can legally tamper with whatever you want. Tinker,
try to find a way in your own job. If you're Amazon driver, whatever that means for you. We love our delivery drivers, by the way.
Do it.
Like, try to find a way to legally tamper, at least for the next 22 minutes.
Let's not get our Amazon people stealing our packages.
No,
I don't want people looking through my packages.
We're tongue in cheek, people.
Oh.
It's legally tampering for the NFL.
So,
I love that term, by the way, Scott. Still, they've moved away from it.
Yes.
But I love that the NFL actually used that term, however many years ago, to talk about this.
This is so stupid
time period.
It's like they've already figured out the deals. Why are you waiting?
Yeah.
Like why are we letting this know right now? Okay, listen. Topical trivia. That we're gonna announce that here in just a bit, right?
Yeah, that'll be next segment, right? Right before we start the crosstalk with Spence and get ready for the drive.
Actually, so I don't. Anyways, we're giving away 2 tickets to Volbeat.
Yeah,
July 19th. If you want to know.
So just stay tuned for that. We'll have a trivia question. If you can answer that correctly, we'll give you those tickets in the next 10 minutes or so.
And ESPN 791 welcomes Counting Crows to Utah's first credit union amphitheater, August 21st. Tune into the drive all week for your chance to win. Counting Crows, love them. All right. So much crazy stuff is happening here in the legal tampering day. And I love this because it really starts to tell you how people feel about players, right? So you look at the Bears, and the Bears actually have signed 2 guards and a center. And they're basically saying, okay, Caleb Williams, we think you're a generational talent. We got you all the weapons you need, and now we're going to protect you. And this is you can say this is a good or bad thing because you go, all right, great. Now you got to deliver, right? It's like there's no excuses. Like we're giving you everything, so we need you to show up. And I think if there's an organization that needs a quarterback to show up, it's the Chicago Bears, almost as much, if not worse, than the New York Jets. There's just a couple of organizations, for whatever reason, just can't seem to figure it out when it comes to quarterback. And the Jets is one, which is another interesting thing because the Jets, they signed Justin Fields to a 2-year deal, I think.
Yeah, 2 year.
It's a 2-year deal.
$40 million total, but
it's only a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why it's only a 1-year deal. And 1-year deal is a kiss of death, just so you know. Because a 1-year deal basically says this is a tryout. So you have to come in and you talk about, Caleb Williams, in the second year there's not a lot of like ramping up, and people like C.J. Stroud and Jaden Daniels are screwing it up for everyone because they play good as rookies. So everyone expects every rookie to play that way, and so the pressure is on these guys to perform like now, like if not, boy, you're out, get out of here. And with a guy like Justin Fields, even though it's a 2-year deal, because it's $30 million guaranteed, right? So they're basically saying you're a $30 million a year quarterback. You're in that tier, which is probably about right. But it may say it may be 2 years, but it's really just 1. And we're just gonna see what you are. They're not saying, man, we're gonna bet the ranch on Justin Fields. We're gonna take you for a test drive. You're not now. We hope you play into a long-term contract, but that's not the deal that you're in. I mean, he's going to go in there. He's going to probably be the starter. I mean, he'll be the starter, but he better perform well, or it's a one and done situation. Now you take Sam Darnold, different story, right? Sam Darnold is a 3-year deal, and they're saying we like you a little bit better. We don't like you great, but we're willing to invest some time in you.
It's like how they felt about Geno Smith when they moved on from Russell Wilson, right?
Yes.
Like, so we like you, we don't love you,
right?
But we like you enough to give you a couple of years here.
And Geno's another interesting one because what it's fascinating how there's a pecking order with all of these players, and the highest pecker order was
top of the order.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to digress, but I won't. Was Matthew Stafford, right? And so they go. So everyone wants to know because guess what? I'll guarantee you that they would take him at the Raiders. They take him at Pittsburgh. They take him at Seattle. They take him all over the place.
Yeah.
He's
almost any team.
Any team, right? He's so all of a sudden they go, okay, now we're going to move to the next thing, and so Geno Smith. What's interesting about he got traded. So they just go, we want Geno Smith, and why do we want him? Because it's the devil,
Yeah.
Right. And so
Pete Carroll
knows
the Raiders coach now.
And by the way, Pete Carroll is old.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll goes, I don't have time for these young guys. I'm not in this. I'm in this. We're going to turn this thing around quick. And I need a guy I know, and I know what I'm getting. I know what I'm not going to be surprised by anything. I'm not going to have to sit here and go, I'm not going to have to learn a guy. I know this guy. Like he's someone that I really get. I really understand. Boom. He's my guy. Right. And so it's fascinating to see why these teams pick these players, and not only why they pick them, but how long they pick them for. And then the one that's even more fascinating to me is Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
He's kind of the last one, right? And you go, oh, Pittsburgh goes, fine. We'll try, so now Pittsburgh's in conversation with Aaron Rodgers because now they found out they got nobody. Like, they're not going to come back with Russell Wilson. They've known that, and they go, we think we've got a pretty good team. We need a savvy veteran guy. And Aaron Rodgers, to me, the most excited I would be for Aaron Rodgers to go to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He played well as the season went on. He's recovering from his injury. But the other reason, this is going to be a stupid reason, James, but it's an important one to me. So their retro jerseys and uniforms are hideous. And so are the Green Bay Packers, right? And the Packers and the Steelers feel more like an Aaron Rodgers team. Like, he just feels like he's one of those types of players. And
storied franchise.
Yes,
is kind of
and there's a
thing.
there and these franchise, not only are they storied, but they're calm.
Yeah.
They're not
stable.
They're stable. They're calm. They're
not, hey, you're going to save our franchise because we've had nothing to be happy about. Like, he was stepping in with the Jets.
We're okay that you're a little on the fringe. We're okay that you're kind of your own dude. Because we know who we are, and we're comfortable being the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you come in here and you be Aaron Rodgers, and you go out on the field, and the more you're Aaron Rodgers, the more you feel comfortable in your vibe and doing your thing, the better you're going to play, and the better we're going to play. And I say that kind of jokingly, but not. The environment, the vibe of an organization is important, and the vibe of, like, the city. The Jets, it's a hot mess all the time. It's a train wreck. It's bad. And it's just not a healthy place, and it's going to be a tough place for Justin Fields. And they got some weapons, and he's a guy that will do as good as possibly he could do there. But again, I still need Justin Fields to be a quarterback more than an athlete, and the athlete just kind of utilize it. So to me this is all really fascinating, right? It's just fascinating to see what people really think and how they view, because I don't think Aaron Rodgers was Pittsburgh's first, second, third option. I think he was like, okay, fine, and it will probably be a 1-year deal, or it might be a Justin Field 2-year deal. But it could turn out to be a pretty good deal for both Pittsburgh and Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
I really like it.
I think it's a pretty good fit too. I think that Mike Tomlin is also the kind of coach that you talked about. It's not just the organization stable, but that Mike Tomlin is also stable. He's not feeling like he has to coach for his job all the time, right? It speaks to the stability of the franchise. Also, just the strong personality that Mike Tomlin is. It seems to help kind of egos that might be in the locker room. It's like, no one's going to be a stronger personality than me, kind of thing with Mike Tomlin. That's Rodgers. That's something else that usually the best place for Rodgers at this point.
And it could
it could be the only one. You're right.
All right. On ESPN 790 FM, typical trip. We got a little crosstalk, and we just wrap up the show in a really healthy and good manner on this legally day. All righty, sports fans, welcome back. It is the Sean O'Connell Show here on ESPN 792.1 FM, Utah's #1 sports talk. We have a topical. It's almost 60 degrees today, right? Topical trivia today. 2 tickets to Volbeat, July 19th at Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater. Volbeat. Hear of them? Do you know of them, Spence?
Hello, Scott. No, I've never heard of them before.
Never heard of them.
Nope.
They're amazing. They're popular. The kids love them these days. So
you said Volbeat?
Volbeat.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So am I giving the question? Okay. We had back earlier in the show. Let's see. Who do we have on the show? Our beat Devin Jackson from the Philadelphia Inquirer. We're talking about local players going to the NFL. Karenni Reed. What round did Devin Jackson anticipate Karenni Reed? So what day? Day 1, day 2, or day 3? I'll help you out. It was one of those 3 days. Call in and you can get those tickets. Welcoming into the show, of course, you heard his voice, is none other than Spence Checketts, who is the host of The Drive, which comes on here in just a few minutes. And welcome. We're going to do a little crosstalk here, and crosstalk is brought to you by Burt Brothers. Burt Brothers Spring Savings. You can get your car ready for the season with $69 tires, $50 off of your service tickets, and $79 alignments with a purchase of 2 or more tickets. Don't wait. These deals won't last. Stop by your nearest Burt Brothers today. Burt Brothers does it better. Welcome to the show, Sean Show. It's been a Sean Show today, by the way. And
you doing all right, Scott? You hanging in over there?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm feeling a little nervous. I'm in the booth by myself here, and Spence shows up, and I get nervous.
Well, calm down. We're good.
Well,
I
feel bad for you because you know I feel bad in the Jets, right? And I know you're a Jets fan.
Yeah.
And so, you want me to talk you off the ledge, or
because as a Jets fan, you're perennially on that edge. You just have to talk yourself into not jumping and hanging in. No, I mean, look, we were talking about it off air. Justin Fields, you could do worse for a 1-year Band-Aid.
Yeah.
And look, the Aaron Rodgers thing was such a failure. I just hope they bottom out. Start over. Do your calculation on one of these young quarterbacks. Go grab a good one in a couple years. There's nothing. Look, if you're Breece Hall and if you're Garrett Wilson, you've got to be afraid that you're pissing away your opportunity to put up numbers and therefore make more money. So you can talk me off the ledge if you would like, but again, I'm just going to exist there no matter what.
So then I want to understand why a Jets fan? So why a Jets fan? Why do you continue to be a Jets fan? Is it just I saw this with Detroit Lions fans. They're just Detroit Lions fans. I mean, why?
Well, first of all, once you get into this business and you're in the business, the fan kind of dies. Okay. So it's not like I live and die with the Jets every weekend, but I grew up in the Northeast, and I grew up going to Giants Stadium to watch both the Giants and the Jets. Now, there's my father, and then there are 4 boys. So there are 5 of us that grew up going to those games.
Yeah.
My father and 2 of my brothers became big Giants fans.
Gotcha.
And I just didn't think that era of Giant football, even though they were good, I didn't think that. I thought Eli was a goob. I thought he was a guy who just sulked all the time. Strahan, Tiki Barber, corny dudes, right?
Yeah.
And the Jets had Vinny Testaverde. And they had Curtis Martin.
Yes.
You know, and they had Wayne Corbett.
Yes.
They had, like, cool football players that weren't very good at football.
Yeah. They had some personality.
So I chose the cool team that wasn't very good over the dorks that, you know, it's like I'm not a big Harry Potter guy, but maybe James can help us. Like, the Giants were like Gryffindor, right? Like corny dudes that are nice and do really well. And the Jets are like Slytherin. Like cool guys that, you know, maybe they're not winning games.
I don't want to get into Harry Potter because first Harry Potter, I don't understand it. I believe you. I trust you, and it's fine. Speaking of characters, Vinny Testaverde is a very, very underrated quarterback.
For sure.
He's one of those, and it's like the perception was bust, but he played a long time, and he was very productive for a long time. I'm a big fan of Vinny Testaverde, actually.
Yeah, the coolest Giant was Plaxico Burress. Then he shot himself with a gun in his sweatpants. So we would go to the games, and my dad and two brothers are cheering for the Giants. I'm like, they're good, but they're goobs. Like, I want to cheer for a team that has some cool players. Now, if you gave me the chance for a mulligan, I would take it because it's been pathetic.
Okay.
It's such a bad organization. Yeah. So
I actually, a few years ago, just on a whim, I actually looked in the website. I was going to become a New York Jets fan, and I was going to buy season tickets.
Why?
Just because I wanted to understand, like, what is the like, and I've never done this, and it just sounded like a fun thing to do. And you could buy like nosebleeds, and so I was gonna get up in the very top, and we found flights, so we could fly a red eye out to New York, catch the game, and come back, and then just talk about what it was like to be a Jets fan. I was gonna become a Jets fan. I always went in the stadium underneath, like I never went through the turnstile. I never walked in the stadium. I was never a fan. And I just thought it would be just a fun, and part of it was like, okay, Zach Wilson's going to go there. He's a local kid. Let's just kind of see what it's like to be a Jets fan. And for whatever reason, I have no idea. And I kind of regret I didn't do it.
No, you shouldn't.
I may still do it.
No, don't do that. It's a horrible idea. No, why would you do that? Like, just be grateful that you're able to enter the stadium down below. You still could, Scott. You don't need to have the experience of a normal person just to see what it feels like. What a dumb idea.
Here's the thing. It was cheap, too.
It doesn't matter.
It was like $900
I don't care if they're paying you. You're taking a red eye, which sucks. You're fighting New York traffic, which is worse. Then you're sitting in a nosebleed seat to watch the dumbest team in pro football. What is wrong with you?
It was 8 weeks a year.
You've lost your mind.
Well, of course. I lost my mind a long time
I'm just glad you didn't do that. And put that on the back burner with the rest of your ideas you've never done. That's silly. Goodness, Scott. Anyway.
Well, I guess I'm getting kicked out. It's time for the drive with Spence Checketts.
I didn't mean to be mean to you. I'm just saying that's a bad idea.
No, you're totally
okay.
Look, I know it's a bad idea. I knew it was a bad idea when I was doing it.
Which is why you didn't do it.
Well, of course, yeah.
All right.
Well, maybe not. I might still do it.
Don't do it. What's wrong with you?
I don't know.
Well, it's good to see you, Scott.
Likewise. All right. Hey, we're going to end it for today. We're going to turn it over to Spence for the drive here. This is the Sean O'Connell Show. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, James, and everyone for listening. Had a fun day. We're going to come back and do it again tomorrow. This is ESPN 700, 92.1 FM. Until